Hi, hello, and welcome to the latest edition of the Tetracast. It is episode 313, and we are recording on August 26, 2023. I am your host this week, Josh Torres. I am not your usual host, Brian Vitali. He is still out on a work trip. He should be back next weekend. He's doing well. He visited the UK, and now he's half British, I hear. So, that's a bummer for you, Chow.
He referred
Oh,
to
man.
he referred to a group of men as gents. Like, oh
Uh-oh.
no, we lost him.
Yeah. So yeah, that's at least half British there. Oh shit. Well, as you heard, I am joined by the usuals. I am joined by Adam Vitali.
Hello.
I'm joined by Chow Minwoo,
How's it going?
and I am joined by James Galizio.
Hey folks, I'm using a different mic today.
Yep, and I hopefully my voice sounds better from last weekend. And I feel like I've gotten better from my sickness. This week we have quite a bit of things to talk about. As for like games that came out this week, not really on the RPG front, but Armored Core did come out, and I'm legally obligated to talk about Armored Core, at least for a good chunk of time, because it's been a decade since the last one. I also get to talk about what I really went to San Francisco for. I went to go visit Cygames and to go check out Granblue Fantasy Relink. Interviewed them, did a preview. So we'll talk a bit about that. That went really well. And then the most of the chunk of news this week is just, as you guessed, it's Gamescom week. So we had opening night live hosted by Jeff Keighley, and everything else that came out of Gamescom. We'll talk about here on the RPG front. So the start of new From Software title came out this week. Armored Core 6: Fires of Rubicon. It is, as you imagine, a new Armored Core game following up from, since the last time an Armored Core game came out, like in 2013, with Armored Core 5 Verdict Day. A lot's changed and a lot stayed the same. For anyone who's been keeping up with this, it seems like a lot of people struggle with this game. A lot of people have been talking about the difficulty level of this game. It is very much, I would say, an old school type of game design that you see fewer and fewer of. It is stage based. It is not open world. There's no RPG levels or anything like that. It is very much, hey, you take on mission. You can along the way you gain new mech parts, and the level of customizability is staggering. For people who've never played these types of mech games, you can have different parts for your head, your body, your arms, your legs. You can have up to 4 different weapons on you, 2 on your main arms, 2 on your shoulders, and then all your internal parts is like your fire control system, your booster, your generator, and then there's like these new OS parts that you can have on you to like do different stuff, like make a shield or unleash a shockwave. And then on top of all that, you have like this very, very in-depth like paint editor, and then you can make your own images and emblems and decals using the in-game tools. And people over the years in the Armored Core community have gotten very, very, very good at manipulating From Software's image editor in Armored Core 5, to the point that like they can just make any fucking emblem. You see, people sharing like Ace Combat emblems. Will share anime emblems, like, and then anime images, and whatever else, whatever emblems they see in other games, they recreate that.
I haven't. First of all, I guess I should say I never played Armored Core 5 or Verdict Day, mainly because I heard they weren't very good.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, they're very multiplayer focused. Like that was like it was a very it was that time where like games like focused on their multiplayer modes a lot at the cost of like, their single player content.
Yeah, but I played For Answer before that. Which one was that? 2008, and
Yeah, around there.
I like that a lot. I played 2 and then For Answer and then one of the other ones. So I haven't played all the Armored Core games, but I played a handful of them. Now I bought 6. I haven't started it yet. I have seen some both praise and criticism for like the overall design of the game being this sort of mission-based, structure. no cutscenes. It's basically just mission briefings in the form of PowerPoint slides and like audio. And I honestly like. No, I'm not the only one who has this opinion, but I kind of appreciate that it just is tried and true and it's stuck like that style, rather than having it be like some sort of cinematic, semi-open world exploration Armored Core game. You
Yeah.
know, I kind of like the old, more like, I think how you put it in your review, at least in terms of the presentation of the game, was kind of nostalgic. Kind of feels like an old school style of game, obviously with modern controls and visuals and effects and things like that. So I'm really excited to play this. It's also not as long as all the other RPGs that we've been playing.
Yeah.
You said you finished like one playthrough in about 20 hours. Is that right?
Yeah, about. Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course there's reasons to replay the game, but it's kind of been fun seeing the response to this game. I think most people are going in understanding that this isn't Souls, this isn't an RPG, it's a mech action game. There have been a few funny, like if you look at Steam reviews, there's a few weird ones where people just had the wrong expectation of what this game was, and that's fair. But I think for the most part, I'm going to be optimistic and think that most people probably had an idea of what they're getting into, or at least or accepting that this is a mech game, not a Souls game. And it's just kind of fun to see, like in the last 10 years, FromSoft has really elevated its what's the word I'm looking for? Like its
Reputation.
visibility, its
Oh, yeah.
reputation. Very, it's. I think this is a when you go by Steam concurrency, it's the second most for a FromSoft game, meaning it's beaten every single Dark Souls game, just not Elden Ring. I saw that somewhere. I hope that's accurate.
Yeah, I heard something similar to that too. Yeah, and just it's just a second like Elden Ring in terms of like concurrent peak, I guess.
Yeah, which I think it was around like 150,000, but it's it's just kind of fun to see, like 10 years ago when Verdict Day came out, only the diehard Armored Core fan base was really aware of it, and I think that was like just shortly after Dark Souls. So even though Dark Souls had kind of come out and made like a splash in a sense, it definitely nearly wasn't at the point that we are now, where FromSoft just has that visibility and has that reputation where people who have never played Armored Core are now interested in it because they liked Elden Ring or Dark Souls or what have you. So it's really
Yeah, it's
cool
kind of
to see.
it's kind of like a bizarre phenomenon because by its nature, like these mech builder type games, are niche inherently. You don't see a lot of you see like the occasional release like Daemon X Machina, definitely inspired by it, but it's kind of its own separate thing. But just try to popularize and kind of not mainstreamify, but trying to get it to a wider audience, reaching a wider audience. Like, how do you make this appealing to people? Of like trying to ask them, hey, this is kind of like an old school type of like mission based game, and it'll be tough at points. And the solution is not to go off and level up your stats. It's to go to the garage and go test out new builds and mech parts and seeing what might work
Do you think
against like the
it's?
different
I think
obstacle that
I
you're
think in your review you said
facing.
it's actually on the easier side, or at least not as hard as Last Raven. I never played Last Raven,
Yeah, for me,
so
because I kind of used to like the difficulty of these games, so like I comparing it to like the really high end like
because
difficulty stuff like Last
I
Raven.
didn't think Armored Core, again, the ones I played, like 2 and 4 Answer, I didn't think they were hard. I mean, they weren't cakewalks, but I'm just like, is this game harder than games in the past, or is it just people are unfamiliar with them?
I think it's a bit mix of both. It does kind of surprise the beginning because like in this installment of Armored Core, like they do have like more bigger boss battles, more like standard boss battles that you've seen in like past From games, like in the Souls games, where like you face off like a really big thing with like enough on a life bar, and like you don't really see that much in older games. You see it here and there, but not to this kind of scale and how they did it. So like the first few bosses, like the tutorial boss and the end of the chapter 1 boss, like they're definitely difficulty spikes of like it might catch you off guard. You can't just take a straightforward approach to them. You kind of have to tactically approach them and think about, oh, okay, I have to work around this new stagger bar, and I have to fill this up, and then I'll get big damage once they're staggered. But like the behavioral patterns of these bosses are very aggressive. It's not like Souls where like it's a strict pattern where like you can kind of wait out their moves and then punish their moves. This one is you're constantly being barraged by attacks, and you have to actively dodge these attacks and kind of make the most out of like the few openings that the boss gives you. They're definitely more. It's a different ebb and flow than like a Souls boss. It's definitely more aggressive. You have to think more on your feet, and it's definitely just kind of more chaotic inherently by the genre itself.
I mean that sounds familiar.
My question is, this first boss, is it the spider that everyone's being filtered by?
For the first one that people are feeling filtered by is the tutorial boss, which is like the big VTOL chopper at the very end of the tutorial mission.
Yeah, it's very early on. And then like the chapter 1 boss, Baltius, is also a really big wall. I think they might have tweaked the truck on top of the actual wall in chapter 1, because that was also something that a lot of folks were kind of being filtered by in the preview event. I think they might have tweaked it last minute, because it had an annoying thing where it would like, since you have to hit it from the back, you kind of had it would like very, very quickly, as soon as you caught up to it, like kind of swerve 180 degrees. So it was annoying unless you use like vertical missiles. I think it's probably a bit easier now, because I haven't really seen too many people. Like,
I think they might have that. Yeah, and that's the Juggernaut. But yeah, like the one that a lot of people get caught up on, also as James mentioned, is Baltius fight, where it's kind of like it's that thing. If you've seen any of the trailers, it's that one flying boss with the mech in the middle, surrounded by kind of like coils all around it in a spherical pattern, and then just fires a shit ton of missiles, and it's surrounded by like this pulse shield.
Yeah,
so
I haven't been playing Armored Core yet, because I am playing Starfield. I can't talk about it, but basically stuck playing that for the foreseeable future. But if anyone is stuck on Baltius, quick tip: kicks, swords, and sometimes the best defense is being more offensive than you'd like. When it shoots out a bunch of missiles, sometimes the best move is just to boost right in.
Yeah. So people have been finding their own solutions to that, and then the next one after that, the end of chapter 2 boss is like this armored spider, and it has like a phase change at like the halfway point where it starts flying up. For me, I didn't think that'd be like when I played through that, I didn't think much of that boss, but it's because it's kind of catching me off guard that a lot of people are like having trouble with that one too. But I'm just like, yeah, I can, like, it's kind of people will find, their own personal walls with this game, and we'll just have to adjust around it. But the actual game content itself is very, very solid. I played the PC port, and that ran very smoothly.
I hear this is quite possibly FromSoft's best PC port.
I believe it. Yeah, it is way better than like Elden Ring's PC launch, which was
no
a
stutter.
disaster.
Like, I've not seen a single person like say that there's shader stutter. It has 120 FPS support. It has ultra wide support.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be running really well on pretty much every system. So it's like, yeah, it's not a super technically demanding game, but like, I don't think people really care about that as long as it runs well and looks good. And yeah,
and I played this on keyboard and mouse because I was really curious.
I heard the keyboard mouse controls are good.
Yeah, they're very, very good. I was very surprised that like everything's fully rebindable on controller and keyboard and mouse. No limitations to that, and yeah, it runs like a dream on that. That's definitely my preferred way to play on it. But if you want to play on controller, then there's nothing stopping you.
We probably should have mentioned this earlier, but like, we understand that Armored Core is not an RPG. We kind of covered it on our site in the sense that we have a lot of, obviously most FromSoft games recently are RPGs, and we covered all of them, I think, except Sekiro. Sekiro was sort of weird because they kept calling it like, I think.
And in the end,
we could have covered it, really.
Yeah, I would argue we probably could have done a numbered review for Armored Core just based off of what I played at the preview event.
Right. Well, I was going to get into that. Like, this game is not really an RPG, but there are things that, there's some DNA there. There's like a lot of stats that you're affecting based on your build, based on what I saw Josh's preview and review. And there's no levels or anything like that, but there's that sort of personal customization element that RPGs have.
Yeah, and then like on this, yeah, we're about to get to the same point, but like in this installment, there's like persistent progression too, where you kind of get these OS tuning chips from arena fights, and you can like slot those into like the OS tuning to like kind of get permanent upgrades, like upgrades to like your defense, upgrades to like your damage types, which is RPG light.
Yeah, but really, we just wanted to cover it just because we felt like people were interested and we wanted to. Sometimes it's as simple as that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just a random question. Since you have beaten it, right? Like, completely, right?
Yeah, I played
it 3 times.
3 times.
3 times. Does this have the Moonlight Laser Sword, or whatever it's called? The Moonlight Blade?
Yes, it has Moonlight Sword.
Is it still the best weapon for melee?
I don't think so personally. It is good for some cases, but I don't think it's the best. Like it's one of these types of games are like it's always hard to judge what's the best depending on like what you're up against. But like if you're talking about melee, it's gonna be tricky to use. I mean in PvP, it's gonna be tricky to use in PvP, I think. But definitely for some melee builds that you're doing, it does have its uses. It is pretty cool.
Like, that's the weapon I remember most in the Armored Core series, because I only played, I think, like 2 Armored Core games in my life. I played Project Phantasma and Master Arena, and I remember always trying to get that sword. It was like the best weapon in that game for melee wise back in that day, because back then it was just like, there was just like a flat stat. You don't have like like modern Souls game kind of where it's like nothing. There's no good or bad items, right? It's like one thing has a little trade off, right?
Yeah. And I think this game follows that up too, where like I don't think there's really a best weapon. It really just depends on what type of build you're trying to do and what you wanna give up and what will to make that build work. Pretty much, it's a lot of like give and take.
Now you said the biggest new thing in this game is basically stagger.
Yeah,
because I don't remember stagger in Armored Core.
No. Like stagger has always been like kind of like almost like a hidden thing, like in 4 Answer that you played, like if you hit something hard enough in it,
there's some like recoil in sense, like
they'll get like they'll kind of like take a like maybe a second or two to like kind of regain their footing
before they would move again. It was sort of like micro stagger.
That's so like that concept has been in previous Armored Core games, but like in this one there's kind of like the main focus where you can actually see this bar filling up. When it fills up, either on you or an opponent, but like you'll freeze up for like a second or two, and then during that time, all hits you take are direct hits, so like they deal bonus damage. So you really wanna that's kind of like your DPS window. Unlike when you stagger an opponent, that's when you can really shred its HP. If you really maximize how many shots you're getting in during that time, and that's also what makes this game kind of have a different ebb and flow to other games, because kind of every stray hit that you take matters, because that feeds your bar, so it can just accumulate without you knowing, because you're not thinking about it, and all of a sudden you get hit with a bad shot, you're staying in the air for like 3 seconds, and then in that time everything's just firing at you. It's not like a mechanic that's like too in your face, so you have to be kind of mindful about it at all times, because almost everything that you fight against has a stagger bar with you, and that's kind of the biggest learning curve I feel for this type of game to work, because like I said, at any time like you might just be able to like freeze up off of like a stray shot, and then you'll really the game is really good at knowing, hey, you got staggered. You'll just hear a loud earshot sound of like saying like, hey, you fucked up. Like, oh, okay. And yeah, the narratively, this game is pretty solid. You know, it's about this planet that you come across called Rubicon 3. You take on the role of like a nameless mercenary, like an augmented human. You work for this guy named Handler Walter, and like other Armored Core games, you're kind of working at the behest of like multiple corporations as a mercenary group, taking on requests, and then through the story presentation of like mainly comms and radios and briefings, you'll see more and more of the plot uncovered based on like character interactions primarily. You'll see a few cutscenes here and there of like confrontations, but it's nothing like a cutscene of like two people just like hanging there talking for short or for a long amount of time. It's very brief and concise, and it tells you what you need to know, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I don't want to be like cynical or dismissive, but Armored Core is one of those games like I don't need an intricate story. I don't need elaborate scenes or like characters. Just kind of give me some basic through line about like here's some conflict and you are some mercenary and here are some reoccurring enemy mercenaries that you fight against, and I just give me something simple.
There's memorable character. Yeah, there's memorable characters. I see, like Rusty is like one of the first allies that like you work with, and after you defeat like the Juggernaut, he's like we're buddies now. And he's like, I'll fill you in on like what was supposed to happen in his mission. Like you're supposed to be like sacrificed at the behest of this to make this mercenary group look better, pretty much. And then Rusty's a reoccurring character. Balaam and the Red Guns are a reoccurring faction that you work with, and sometimes you may work against at some points.
Yeah.
Too, but they're very, they're very
because you're a mercenary. You just fight for whoever pays you.
Yeah, so. Yeah. Like the way they speak, the way their manners, like you can, like what's really good about this game, especially in its voice acting, is like you'll pretty much recognize everyone by voice, is because they put their voice at the front and center along with their emblem and call sign. But you'll recognize, like if you were to just like, by the end of this game, if you just heard like a random conversation with these voice actors, you'd be like, oh, that's Carla, that's Walter, that's G1 Michigan, just by their voice alone. And that's really cool. That's like that's a way to like kind of make an effective story, and it's kind of like in contrast to like how most games do it these days.
That kind of goes back to like I like the old school style, and that they didn't try to make it some cinematic game with I just don't need it. Like I like it like this. So
yeah. Yeah. And then like as I mentioned earlier, I beat it 3 times because there's different things that happen in like New Game Plus and even New Game Plus Plus. Different like missions you'll get, different there's like sometimes you'll have like these decision missions where you'll get like at least 2 missions with like this little marker that says decision, and then it's like pick one or the other. Like if you pick this mission, the other mission is closed off to you until the next playthrough, pretty much. So you can there's like branching paths to a certain extent in the story, and each of like my 3 playthroughs had different final bosses and different endings. So there's that, like, even though like first like an initial playthrough might be on the lower end of hours as most like games these days, there's like it's highly replayable. There's a reason to go back and see more of it and collect new parts and see new stuff. And so it for me it was very relaxing to play. It was nice, like just kind of having a very old school type of game, but like very, very polished and like with modern production values, and still like believing in this type of like video game presentation almost, which I appreciated.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how well this does, because I think it's no question that this is going to be the best-selling Armored Core game, because no Armored Core game before this sold well. I mean,
I think Armored Core 2 was I think over the only one that met over 1 million, I think.
Yeah, it's so clearly this has way more visibility, way more platforms, because I think none of the other ones are on PC, right? They were all just like PS3 and Xbox 360 or PS2 or PS2. 1. So So yeah, this is gonna be. It'll be interesting to see. Like, I assume it'll break 1 million, but like how many millions? It's really hard to say. Like 2 million,
Pretty much.
3
Pretty
million.
much. Yeah,
I
like
mean,
I don't
I
know.
don't
I
know
don't
what
know
the
what
upper. It's. I don't know what the ceiling is. It's definitely going to be the best of the series, but
it's really like a fascinating case study of like how do modern audiences take to like old school game design these days, like and like it's just fun seeing like the conversations people have been having with this game and seeing how people play this game too, like streams, and it's funny seeing like some like Souls people like try to play this almost like a third person cover shooter, which is something you can't really do, but they try to do it at the beginning,
It's been very funny seeing the lead up to this that popular like Souls YouTuber VaatiVidya actually went through the entire Armored Core series and like legit became like a super fan. And honestly, huge props to him.
yeah.
That's really cool to see someone that's like obviously Soul stuff is his wheelhouse, but he decided, you know what, I'm going to give this series that's from one of my favorite developers a proper shot. Want to know what the history of it is like going into the new one. Honestly, really cool stuff.
It's funny to think about too, because if you think about just quantity alone, like, and it's hard to think about it like from the perspective these days, but FromSoft still has way and above, like, has made more Armored Core games than they have made like Soulsborne games,
Yeah.
even the Sekiro. So like Armored Core 6 is like the 15th Armored Core game they made.
I remember like this is probably like 12 years ago. I think it was when For Answer came out, which is like how long ago was that? 15 years ago. Anyways, I remember even back then people joked that Armored Core is a series that refuses to increment numerically because there's like 2 different Armored Core 2s, there's like 2 different spin-offs, 2 different Armored Core 4s, then there's 2 different Armored Core 5s. Kind of funny.
And then there's also like mobile, like not mobile, handheld spin-offs, like there's PSP Armored Core games.
Yeah.
So it's just they've done a lot of these. It's really cool to see them revisit it, and hopefully we get more regular releases in the future. Obviously, for me this game is really cool. Obviously, but to me it's like a new foundation of like to build off of.
Like hopefully it doesn't. I don't need a new Armored Core every year, but hopefully it doesn't take 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't even played this one yet, so I can't get too ahead of myself. I think FromSoft, I guess the next thing we would expect from them is Elden Ring DLC, right? So
I think so.
After that, who knows? So
yeah, well, we'll see. So I imagine Elden Ring DLC probably next year. Safe guess.
Yeah, I would say that seems reasonable. 2 years after the origin, 2 years after Elden Ring.
It also feels kind of nice because it feels like they started working on the DLC after the game came out and not like during production.
I think all we have is a title and maybe like one image,
Yeah.
which doesn't really show anything. So we
Yeah.
don't really know much about it.
My experience with FromSoft DLC is they're worth every penny. They're almost like it feels like kind of like a side game for what you pay for.
An old
Yeah,
The only problem is that you just don't know where to find the DLC to start.
Like, how do you start
it?
Yeah,
you literally maybe needed the guy to find where is the new location found. Maybe.
Just explore the Elden Ring map until you find it.
Yeah, like I remember like Dark Souls 1 and like Bloodborne DLC is kind of obtuse to find, if I remember correctly. But for a lot of people, the DLC for Souls games is kind of like the highlight because a lot of the best stuff is usually in the DLC for them. Like the Old Hunters for Bloodborne is like one of the best DLCs for a game still for me ever. A lot of great stuff in that. But yeah. So yeah, that's Armored Core. We'll see if they decide to release a new one in the next 10 years again, or release additional content for this one. It's a really, really good game, but it's also not a game for everyone. If you're interested, read what I have to say on the site. And then there's obviously a lot of content creators making content for it if you want to see it and see if it's a game for you. It's probably it's probably going to be like the biggest, like, I don't know, it's like I can't see another like mecha game in the foreseeable future have like this big of a splash on the mainstream audience as this.
Daemon X Machina 2 is kind of in a weird spot because it sort of felt like the first one is kind of like well, they don't make Armored Core anymore, so I guess this is the next best thing. But now we do have
Yeah.
Armored Core, so it's like, okay, well, there's also Daemon X Machina. I never played that one, so I'll be honest, I don't know what its strengths are, like maybe relative to
Yeah,
Armored
David
Core.
X.
So
Yeah, David X Machina I still consider it a very different thing from hardcore because
okay.
in that game you actually make a character
Yeah.
and you actually go around the hangar with a character and you actually get like face-to-face
Yeah, it
interactions.
seems like that seems a little bit less old school, more cinematic, more character focused. I mean, that's just my read on it. I've never played it, but
So do you think we'll get a Zone of the Enders free since mech
No,
games might be popular again?
nah, the Kojima is no longer at Konami, and also I don't think Konami really has the staff to work internally on new Zone of the Enders. I don't know if they'd ever revisit that IP
Well,
outside of
the thing
re-releasing
is,
it.
is that they seem to be on better terms with Kojima now, considering hasn't he like come out and commented on the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake and basically given it his blessing?
I don't know. Actually, I haven't
heard,
heard.
remember
all I
seeing a
heard
tweet.
was those new remasters are kind of more basic than people wanted, based on previews.
Yeah,
That's all
yeah.
I heard.
Well, the reason I say okay, I don't think a new Zone of the Enders will happen, but Konami's slowly been starting to like release bigger games again. Like we have obviously the Silent Hill 2 remake coming out. We have the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake coming out, but the reason they're probably doing remakes first is because they've been out of gaming for so long that the easiest way to kind of like build a pipeline up again is to make remakes. And I know they did like the VR slash HD remaster of Zone of the Enders 2, so they like depending on how well that sold, I don't know if it sold particularly great or
Yeah,
not.
that was a weird thing because it's like a partnership with Side Games, and because like it's basically Side Games just like kind of came with Konami's like we really like Zone of the Enders too. Can we make like a remake slash remaster?
I don't
Hey,
think they will
hey,
work with each other again because
That
they were
was
trying
funny.
to sue each other for
They
the
got-
oh right, yeah, because the Uma Musume stuff. Okay, if they were gonna make Zone of the Enders 3, that's obviously no longer on the table.
Yeah, jeez, that is such a weird relationship. So yeah,
It's like you stole our mechanics. It's like what? You can play patent mechanics? Wow, that is what Nintendo was trying to do with Tears of the Kingdom, but damn.
Where is Suikoden Konami?
that's true.
Will that remaster be any good?
I mean, I feel like it's a foregone conclusion at this point that we'll see the TGS again and
Yeah,
see
yeah, that's.
when
If
it
it's not
comes
at
out.
TGS, that'd be weird. Like, okay,
Then it's definitely not this year. I feel like if it doesn't show up.
so
Like I think that's the last chance they have to say it. That's the last chance that they'll say it's either this year or if it's not there, then next year.
yeah.
So, let's see. That's Armored Core 6. I also have another thing. I published a few things on the site. So when I went to San Francisco to go visit Side Games, I learned, they basically showed off like all the new stuff that they showed off in Gamescom opening night live for Granblue Fantasy Relink, including the new trailer. So, we saw the new trailer for Granblue Fantasy Relink. They are showing off more of the game footage, showing more of the battles, that you can like play a little bit of Proto Bahamut. So I'm sure some people will compare it to FF16 a little bit. Um, but then most importantly that they showed the release date of this game. It's coming out February 1, 2024, with a physical and digital release simultaneously. This was really weird that this news came out late. So we learned at the briefing there that they were going to partner with PlayOn in Europe to release the physical
And
version.
let me just say, I don't think they've said that publicly yet. That PlayOn is doing physical in Europe.
I think
No. There's a flyer that said they're doing it.
Oh,
Yeah,
there is?
Less
Okay.
done.
Well, PlayOn's press release site doesn't say anything, so they don't want to announce it or something for some reason. I don't know.
Unless it's some other different NDA or something. But I have this flyer
Okay.
that says that they're doing the European
Oh, okay.
distribution.
Yeah, I think it's on their Twitter too.
I was
or
waiting for an
something.
announcement from PlayOn. I don't think PlayOn sent out a press release, but Xseed Games did.
Yeah,
Surprised
this
they
one,
were in the works
this one they
together.
didn't know. Yeah, this one they didn't even tell us. Like we were under the impression that like they were publishing it themselves, and then in North America, and they didn't say anything different about that. And then it came out, very late that like, hey, they're partnering with Xseed again for the release of Relink, at least for the physical release.
Wasn't there something really weird with the way that Granblue Versus was handled, where basically, oh right, it was out in Japan a month early, but it had all the English like subtitles and even dub or something like that.
And also they didn't let that, I don't know if they informed the European
that there was a PC version.
Exceed and Marvelous Europe. I don't think they informed that there was a PC version, and that came out before the physical console release that was being distributed by them too. So that was a really weird thing. It was one of those things, like, I don't know if they're gonna partner again, but I guess they are, for at least in North America. Yeah. So so there'll be a physical release of that, deluxe and collector's editions of it. The collector's has like a proto Bahamut statue and like a metal charm and all that stuff. And then, after that, I was for our session, I was the first to interview them. So that full interview is up on the site. In it, they kind of clarified a lot of like gameplay details in it that people have been wanting to know, like how do you exactly recruit new characters, and like, because they in the Anime Expo 2023 presentation they gave, they're like, oh yeah, you can go recruit whoever you want whenever you want, and then people are like, is this like a non-linear type of game where you can like kind of like explore wherever you want, like in a certain order, like Jedi Fallen Order, for example. And then so I wanted to like clarify how that was gonna work, and then they're like, oh no, it's like a lot more simple. Like as you progress through the main game, we'll give you items that like, you can exchange for like whoever playable character you want. Like, I guess like in an in-game shop or something.
So I imagine it's like you get your player coin or whatever it is, and then you like, which character do you want to buy? And then Chao is like, give me Narmaya.
So, that's the 100%.
That's Chao's favorite,
first
right?
choice.
Okay.
My favorite character is kind of weird. I like Europa the most.
Okay, Chao, we're talking about Relink, like in Relink, who you're gonna unlock first.
Yeah, she's not gonna be there. There's no way.
So I was saying you would get Narmaya. Is that her name first? Is that right?
Yeah, I would definitely get her first. She's always been a fan favorite. Like, yeah, they usually had a nickname for her. But yeah, I would definitely get her first.
Now, the thing about this game that I'm kind of most curious about is that we know it has 2 modes. And this isn't new information. There's a story mode, and then there's like sort of the mission-based team up with 3 other people or AI and go like, you do like, it's almost like a Monster Hunter hunt where you go out, fight enemies and a boss, and then come back with your reward. It's not like Monster Hunter in terms of like gearing and stuff, but it seems to have that sort of like structure to it where you're kind of going on these little dispatches. I'm just kind of curious about like the balance of that, like how long is the story mode itself, and like how much of the game is focused on this sort of mission-based kind of co-op.
Yeah, they keep emphasizing there's like over 100 quests, like so over 100. So, yeah, I don't know. Like they seem to like probably guesstimate around like I'm not sure. I hear 50 hours being thrown around.
For the story? Exactly. Oh, okay. I was sort of worried, and this would probably be a disappointment to many, I would assume, if the story is like a 10-hour thing.
Yeah,
and then there's like 100 hours of mission stuff. You know,
I think it would definitely be longer than that.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not saying it would be. I was just saying, like, I don't know. I'm just kind of curious how long the story would be. Like, is it like a fully fledged, JRPG? I don't know.
Yeah. Didn't they like said in an interview before a long time ago that they said that they're gonna make the story also playable in the mobile game too? They're gonna convert it.
Did they say in the preview event or in any of the interviews how long they expect the game to be?
I think they did decide. Yeah. I'm sure they answered that question for other outlets.
Someone had to ask it, right?
Yeah. Like I'm not one to ask for gameplay time because I never trust developers giving their guesstimates for gameplay time.
That's also very subjective on how their approach to the game. Like all my friends that I talked to that played Trails of Cold Steel 4, they said they beat it in 60 hours. I'm stuck here doing 150 hours for some stupid reason. So I don't know what experience they went through. They either fast forward the text or they don't give a fuck about the NPCs or something.
According to WCCF Tech, it says 25 hours of story, up to 100 hours of content. So
yeah, I think there's also there's also another outlet that mentioned like there's like also side episodes for characters that's like different from like the other stuff. So I was like, I don't know.
But yeah, that's kind of the curious thing though. I was curious about this sort of balance. So we'll see, I guess.
Yeah. I also asked about how multiplayer progression works, because I know people want to play with their friends. Like, is it going to be one of those weird things where like you get only the host gets progression if you all take on the
Oh
same
yeah,
quest? So
that's always
all
a
that's
tricky thing with these multiplayer components.
yeah. So, but they were very upfront and say no, like you'll get completion bonus if everyone's taking on the same quests at the same time. You guys will all progress together. If it's like one of those like imbalanced things where like you're um a farther on player is like has like a later game quest, like their friends can still join them, but they like but obviously the completion progress won't count for the other people who are way back, but they'll still get rewards from the mission, so you can still play together.
Yeah.
It seems so that's cool.
I'm going to mention that this is as far as RPGs go. This is actually the very first release date we've gotten for a game next year. So we have I mean, I'm the person who puts together all these release date lists, and I hope you readers use those because they're useful, and I spend a lot of time on them.
Yeah,
But
it's
this is the very
useful.
first release date we have. There's right now there aren't any RPGs that release in January that we know of. Obviously there's a lot of time left before then, and I think like Tekken is got a January release, but that's not for us. But
Not if it has a world tour mode.
yeah, the Tekken World Tour. Yeah, maybe.
Man, I'm still getting like PTSD flashbacks, like the Xbox 360 Avatar lobby thing that they showed off at opening night live.
Oh,
That was wild. Like, what the fuck? That was
but
crazy.
there is also another RPG that got a release date, which we'll talk about shortly.
Yeah. And and obviously, like it's kind of those weird things in this interview that like it like I was thinking just about like the modern state of gaming, so I just had to ask: is this a games as a service game? Just like straight up, is this going to have dailies, weeklies, a battle pass? And they're like, and will that require an internet connection to play? They're like, no, it's not a live service game. You can play it offline. It won't have a battle pass. And there's nothing like, there's not like a daily thing that you have to go boot up the game and like do this or you'll fall behind.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those
That's
things
good.
that's like, getting clarification on that is good. Yeah.
Yeah, I was worried that they were gonna make it a live service game after seeing like success of I don't know like Genshin or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that is some good news.
No, this game is interesting in that it's been in development for like 7 years. It feels like it's been a long time.
They mentioned that like this is like technically still our first developed like console title. Like even though the Shadowverse Switch game came out, like this game was in development before that. So this still they consider their first game because it was the first one in development.
I don't know. Like I heard rumors from someone that I don't know they want to break off the Platinum contract because they found it was too expensive and the quality wasn't up to their par.
I think that they answered that in some of them, and then there's like the contractual basically Platinum was like too busy to keep on working with them because they had other projects, and then Kaji, the director of this game, is from Platinum,
Yeah.
so like he stayed on, and that's the Platinum legacy in this game is through Kaji, the director. So it seems like that most of that thing has been cleared over. Like they didn't break off like in bad like
Bad terms.
like yeah, they didn't break out in bad terms. It's like it was primarily because Platinum couldn't like sustain like a extended development period for one project because they had other projects to get to. Bayonetta 3, Babylon's Fall, um, their other upcoming projects like that. What was it, like an Ultraman game or whatever?
Project GG, I think.
Yeah, what
Yeah,
a name, Project
that,
GG.
they had that small shmup that they did. So they had it's like
Astral Chain
if
is
you,
somewhere in there.
yeah, if you just think about like the development period of like when Granblue Relink first started and Platinum's involvement, and then all the other Platinum games that came out in that time frame between this game's initial announcement and development to now, like there's been like at least like 4 Platinum projects that came out. So I'm willing to buy that reason that like they couldn't stay on for, and then that's not even counting like the re-release of like Wonderful 101.
Yeah.
So Platinum is always very much like a studio that likes to kind of like have pretty distinct development periods of like just pushing stuff out. Like they can't do like they can't be in development in it for a game for 10 years and be bound to that. I feel like that's just not the way the studio is run and their development philosophy. So so Yeah, so that was pretty much the Granblue stuff. I also wrote up some hands-on impressions of like other characters that James didn't get to play at Anime Expo, and they played all pretty differently, and it's a pretty fun game to like play overall. It's very responsive. It's a very impressive that this is kind of like their first like go at it with the Side Games Osaka development studio with a full-on console game, and it feels very polished. It controls very nicely, so I think a lot of people will have fun once they get their hands on it, especially playing with friends.
And I know a lot of people who are in the same boat I am, which is I don't care about the mobile game, but I'm interested in this. It's supposed to be the sort of game I believe in terms of like I know some people are like, where does this take place in the story? And it doesn't really take place in the story. It's kind of like its own adaptation of the Granblue story. It's a separate thing. So it's meant to be approachable.
And just a thing, just buy the console version regardless if you're going to play on PC, because those codes that you get from the console version, they're worth more than the game itself if you sell it to people.
Buy the console version, sell the code, and make up your cost.
You'll get the game for free if you play on PC. If you sell the code that you get from the console version.
If you buy this game and you don't play the mobile game, sell the codes. So.
Ciao. Don't listen to Ciao people.
I'm serious. I have a friend that says I refuse to buy any games on the console. It's like, but I want the code. I'll give someone $50 for that, and they'll be like, "Well, you get your game for free if you sell the code, because the PC version doesn't come with codes."
Child's like he's the get rich quick man here. He's like,
that's the only reason to buy this game, I hear.
Yeah, just like Granblue Fantasy versus, right?
Yeah.
I'll buy it for the code, because there's one item that you get in that game which will save you about 500 hours of grinding. So I'll take that.
You buy the code. You buy the code and you get a free game with it.
So yeah, definitely.
Child's like, yeah. Ay.
But I'll probably play this, even though I don't know anything about Granblue.
I'll play this and not worry about any mobile game codes. About that.
I'll play with you guys. I mean, this is our Monster Hunter experience, just with Granblue reskins, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be getting on PC without the code, so
Did they mention about crossplay or no?
I haven't heard anything. Okay. Yeah, probably not. To be on the safe side, probably not.
You just assume the worst, hope for the best.
And yeah, that's pretty much our time, with games this week. Pretty much, my stuff, and then
I'm still playing Baldur's Gate 3. It's a very enjoyable game. I'm liking it a lot. Kind of taking my time with it. James said he's playing Starfield, which I'm interested in also. We'll talk about that next week, probably. So, is it next week or the week after?
I think it's next week because there's early access starts on September 1st.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Yeah. There's a good chance I probably won't be here next week because I'll be at PAX West.
Oh right, that's next weekend.
Yep.
I just saw Digital Foundry's stuff for Immortals of Aveum go up, and that reminded me. Oh yeah, I did play a bit of that.
Oh yeah, you want to talk about a little bit about Immortals?
Not particularly.
Yeah, but I heard it's basically it's an FPS with wizard powers, but it still feels like an FPS even though you have cool wizard powers.
I was reading actually some of the reviews for this game. It seems like people, if anything, are pretty positive on like the moment-to-moment gameplay. They think is pretty good, but there's still some other issues in terms of quirks here and there, and UI and quality of life and whatnot. Nobody seems to care for the story a lot, and a lot of people seem to hate the main character for some reason.
Yeah,
like a lot of people that came up more than once. Like, wow, they.
I feel a little bit because didn't the main protagonist dude get up on stage at a recent gaming event to present the game, and he was very excited about it, like the lead actor.
I genuinely feel bad for the studio because the game came out, it has not even hit more than 700 peak concurrent on Steam for players.
Wow. That's,
and I doubt it's doing much better on console. I don't know if it's broke 100,000 sold. Also, the reason I brought up the Digital Foundry stuff is, fun fact, this game has an internal resolution on Series S that's comparable to handheld mode resolutions for Xenoblade 2.
That's rough. Holy shit.
So what's
That's,
that, like 500p?
436p.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard there's like some wonky upscaling stuff with this game too. There's a lot of ghosting issues as well. So yeah, it's so it seems to be not in a great spot.
Is this a
The
$70
Immortals.
game?
Yes.
Wow. I was thinking like this feels like the type of game you might like. This might be the type of game you play for like $20 in a bargain bin or something, not 70.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's going to be fast tracked to Game Pass because they want to recoup their costs somehow, and it's clear, like off the early sales data, that it is just not going to sell at 70.
Yeah, that's
Oh, wow.
I personally don't mind playing a game like this, you know, that I kind of expect to be sort of mid, you know, like beat it in a weekend or whatever. Like, you know, just maybe there's some.
This is a game that I would rent from like Hollywood Video and
yeah,
Blockbuster.
but not for.
I would rent this.
I guess on PC there is a $60 version. So, but still, I don't know if I want to pay $60. But anyways, yeah. This is one of those games that we were sort of wondering, should we cover this? Is it RPG enough? We never really did, but...
To be clear, Alex did say the reason I've been playing it is I am going through it.
Oh, yeah.
Because...
Are you going to review it?
They sent us the launch code, so I'll get to it.
Oh,
but...
okay. Sure. Why not?
Immortals.
I wonder how many people listening right now have any idea what this game is. Because I feel like it's kind of been a running joke whenever this game comes up in chat rooms I'm in. People are like, "What is that game? I've never heard of it."
Yeah, pretty much. I remember I read a headline. I forgot where, but like the marketing campaign for this game was like deliberately meant to be short because they wanted to strike while the iron is hot when they're doing this short marketing campaign. Well, and it's like,
not sure if that worked.
Yeah,
it's only got 300 reviews on Steam. That's not a lot for a big publisher game.
Yeah, it's like I really don't want to be mean, but there's no way this game isn't like the biggest bomb of this year.
Golem?
Well, how many reviews does Golem have?
I don't know, actually. I'm just thinking of like the bigger bomb.
Also 300.
Yeah, because I'm thinking of like that bombed enough for the studio to get shut down. Well, shortly after.
This is a totally new game. This is like Immortals is like a AAA Unreal Engine 5 title, so you gotta imagine that the budget wasn't exactly cheap.
Like I'm thinking of like other games that, like had their studios closed down after it this year, like Forspoken.
I mean, just as one random example, like I played Miasma Chronicles earlier this year. That has like 800 reviews. Now that's, you know, a couple months older, but still, like, that's Immortals shouldn't be on that sort of scale if it's from a big publisher. But anyways, I might play it like literally years down the line if I can get it for cheap.
If it's like $10 to $15, I'll be curious enough. Yeah,
because I like to play these sorts of just like. I play shooter campaigns just to play it once.
I will say I haven't tried it on my laptop yet, but on my desktop at least, which I'd fucking hope so, it runs pretty well. But again, I'd fucking hope so. It's a 4090.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's a big ask. Okay, moving on. We have a lot of news, a lot of Gamescom. We went over the release date for Granblue Fantasy Relink once again, February 1, 2024.
And just to be clear, we have 3 new articles on the site, all that Josh put up, all that we talked about. One is his Armored Core 6 review. It's not a scored review. We sort of felt maybe we shouldn't score it because it's not really an RPG, but Josh put that up. Yeah. And then Josh also put up his Granblue Fantasy Relink interview, as well as his Granblue Fantasy Relink like preview, like his hands-on impressions. So if you're interested in Granblue, check those out. A lot of information.
Yeah. And then for people who are like, yay, big new RPG on February 1, and then the very next day, following this news that on Relink's release date, Atlas put out a new trailer for Persona 3 Reload, the remake to Persona 3, which confirmed a February 2 2024 release date. And the main thing that they showcased in this new trailer was the Persona 3 characters have like tactical gear when handling Tartarus when they go to Tartarus. There's some new music for the game as well.
New battle music.
Battle themes. Yep. It looks really nice. It's really shaping up. What do you guys think about this new trailer? If you guys watched it. No.
I mean, I don't know. Like, first of all, I was sort of surprised hearing last time that apparently this game has been in development for like 4 years. I kind of figured it would have been like a quicker turnaround than that. Kind of, just using new art assets and sort of maybe a Persona 5 structure or whatever. But I'm sort of wondering how big this game is. I mean, Persona 3, I actually played through the portable version recently. It's kind of funny how Persona 3 actually feels kind of short compared to 4 and 5, even though it's not like a short RPG. It's just kind of relative. It feels like you can beat Persona 3 in like 40 hours.
I have a very long playtime with it. I remember I took like 90 hours.
Well, I guess the portable version is also shorter, I think, than the like FES version. But anyways, I don't know. I will play this, but I kind of feel like I'm still a little bit disappointed that it's not like the ultimate remake that people were hoping for. Like has all the epilogue, female MC, content.
I think losing the female MC is the only thing I am kind of saddened about, but I don't really care for the answer. I feel like, I never get to play that. I'm so hyped to play that. It's like,
well, I actually like the answer, but I wouldn't mind if they would have tweaked it, like included it with maybe some balance tweaks or whatever to make it maybe a little bit, easier or whatever. But I don't know, like, do I need to play through Persona 3 again with like better graphics? Sure, but I don't know if that's like incredibly interesting to me. I know there's a couple of tweaks. Like, for example, I think someone mentioned that there is a baton pass mechanic. There is no more fatigue, which is not really surprising because it felt like every subsequent re-release of Persona 3 made fatigue less and less of a less and less friction there. So the fact that they just removed it entirely is fine.
I think that's what like kind of drags out the playtime in the original because it kind of prevents you from grinding in dungeon. So you're like forced to like try to make sure the best of your time there. And there's a system just to like screw you over. So I don't know, like 3 is like a very min-max game if you try to like max all the social links, which has gotten easier to do as the series went on. Like you could probably do Persona 5 and get all the social link max without guide versus this one.
Especially Royal. So I'll play it, and I think it looks cool. I think the new English voices sound pretty good. They're obviously different than what I'm used to, but. And obviously, this is dual audio for the first time. Yeah. Well, I guess the re-release of the Persona 3 on PC and whatnot is dual audio, but yeah, I'll play it. I just don't know if I'm like super stoked for it.
I think I'll get more excited for it when the release date is close. Because there's some things that like bum me out. Like besides just like the missing content was like on top of all this, the standard price for this is $70. Yeah. So. That's kind of...
my hype has died down buying this game because I can't get my Aegis figure edition.
Oh, you didn't? They did announce a special edition with Aegis.
Well, they announced it, but it's just like in Canada, it's all sold out everywhere. You're just like...
I don't know if it's just me, but like they also announced that like this game, $70 game, it's also a remake of an old game. It's also getting DLC. It's it's like
DLC sucks. Sorry.
Yeah, it's like their usual, like like Persona 5 cautious or whatever else cautious, but then they also didn't announce Persona. They also didn't announce like what else might be DLC. So like, it might be like here's my kind of like big brain thinking, but like I feel like if they're gonna have something substantial with the DLC to like justify the price, I think they're gonna have like some sort of like female MC mini episode, story episode as DLC. As like almost like as a half make good, but that's me.
Expect.
That's me speculating. It's not obviously nothing's confirmed. But for me, like I feel like if they really wanted to like get people's money for the DLC, I feel like they're gonna maybe do that or something similar to that. We'll see.
But I don't know, my experience with this, it's more like I just want to play for the new voice or the new English voices, right? I mean, I have kind of mixing downs, up and downs with the old voice. I mean, there are some voices that I feel it's unbeatable in the original English cast, but I would love to hear this new take for it.
I'm totally up for the new takes on it. I mean, I like the old cast, but I'm totally fine, getting a recast.
I'm okay. Yeah, like if it's a remake of a game, I'm not beholden to like, oh, everything has to stay the same. Because
I'm not
what's the
upset
point
every
of
time they
remaking?
recast James Bond. Like
Yeah.
new
Like
take.
if it's a remake for a game, like feel free to like switch it up. Like I always think about like Resident Evil 4 this year. It's like it's a very different game from the old game, when you play them side by side.
I guess that's maybe one reason why I'm not super excited for this is that I don't know how different it's gonna feel from the original. Like
If it's
when I think of like Final
is that a bad
Fantasy,
thing?
well, when I think of Final Fantasy VII remake or Resident Evil 4 remake, they feel like quite different. And I don't know, it's like this game, how different is it gonna be? I don't know.
Well, it's not going to be the same thing, but the thing is, I didn't want like a one-on-one remake, if you get what I'm saying, because you'll be playing the same game with nicer graphics. It's like I don't care about graphics, really. I just want something different.
Like, are the social links going to be the same, and this like just the overall structure of the game is the same? Obviously, the combat system's going to have some tweaks to it, and it's going to look nicer and probably be easier. But sorry, I don't mean to sound so disappointed. I just kind of like. I'll play it, but it just... I've already played Persona 3 more than once, so it's like, okay, I'll play it again. Sure.
Yeah, I'm thinking, like, I played the original, I played FES, played Portable 2 times, because I did both male and female. So yeah, I already played Persona 3 quite a bit in my lifetime, too.
I mean, it's my favorite of modern Persona. I mean, obviously it's dated, because not many people like the Tartarus that you explore.
I guess I am curious about if Tartarus is going to have any sort of like design to it in terms of its structure.
I love how Chow pronounces Tartarus because it made me think of tartar sauce. I'm like thinking,
Tatar.
Man, fish sounds so good. I love it. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. Like I think the biggest bummer for me is the $70 standard price tag. It just feels weird.
I wouldn't be complaining about prices nowadays. Everything has gone up, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes. Yeah, and in this new trailer they showed the updated designs of Shinjiro, Koromaru.
Redone the cinematic scenes.
What was the kid's name of the spear? I already forgot.
Ken.
Right.
Hey, he's like the most broken character in the fighting game. You can't remember him? I thought he'll grief you.
Now, one thing, this is not new information, but one thing they did add was the male characters, not as long as you're not talking about the female route, the male characters didn't have social links in the original.
Yeah.
Which I almost forgot. Like, oh yeah, they don't. Only Akihiro and Ken do for the female route, and at least in terms of romances. And I hope I'm not forgetting something here, but they basically are adding events for some of the male characters to try to flesh them out a little bit more, which I know some people felt, I've seen some kind of hesitation towards that, but I kind of think it's a good idea in concept anyway. We'll see about how they execute it, because the original game especially was very well focused on, you are a male character, you want to talk and chat with all the female characters, right? So like it was very much highly focused on like the dating element of that, and like you don't want to talk to the male characters, right? Who cares? So it's
Junpei sucks.
Yeah. I think Junpei's an interesting character.
He's fine. I like his plot with what are the antagonists. It helps him a lot.
Chidori,
yeah. Something?
I think that's interesting. But they're gonna give the male characters like new events to try to like flesh them out a little bit more, which I think. Honestly, that's probably one of the more interesting things is how can you take these characters and maybe make them more compelling. My kind of long-held belief was that as far as character writing goes, I like Persona 4 as like a group, but individually I kind of feel like each Persona 4 character individually is a little bit weaker than like Persona 3. Even though
I agree. I feel like Persona 4 is very much a segmented game where like after you're done with the character's arc in Persona 4, they forget about that character.
Yeah. So I always put it that like Persona 4 is a good ensemble cast, maybe better than Persona 3. But Persona 3 I kind of felt like each individual character was a little bit stronger, and if they can kind of just round that out a little bit more with some of the male characters, I'm up for it. I'll see. I have an open mind.
Yeah. All right. Well, whatever you choose, Relink or Persona 3 Reload next year, you're in for a big ass RPG at the beginning of the year either way. So Godspeed.
February's gonna be a busy month.
Hopefully February is like there's no more RPG releases in February because you're good at the first 2 days. Next we have a new trailer for a new RPG coming to PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, mobile devices, and PC. This is Project Mugen, and this is coming from NetEase and publisher NetEase and developer Naked Rain. This is almost kind of like their NetEase's games' like response to MiHoYo's Zenless Zone Zero almost. This looks like an open world urban fantasy sort of game. They were showing teasers and GIFs before officially unveiling it later in Gamescom, and it's one hell of a trailer. If you haven't seen this trailer yet, definitely do. It's definitely an eye catcher. It is very movement exploration focused. Like there's a point in the trailer where like you're kind of swinging the streets like kind of like Spider-Man.
Plenty of Spider-Man comparisons.
Yeah, and then there's like you can also like ride a bicycle, ride vehicles, explore the environment in different ways, not just kind of like web slinging. You can like call wall climb, wall run, ride different objects to move around, and the combat is very much like what you expect from like a MiHoYo action game, where like you're switching between.
MiHoYo though, so I don't know what they have in store.
Yeah, I mean, like the more of the gameplay footage shows, like it's switching between characters, but they're like it's very very flashy, very different sorts of weapons that you see like a character for example has like dual yo-yos that like kind of like inflate into like windmills in the middle of combat. It's what did Adam? You first saw this. What did you think of it? I know like you're not into like mobile games, but just like in terms of like what you saw in the trailer.
It clearly looks high. It looks high budget in terms of a lot of resources going to this game. It's a mix between a Chinese studio and a Montreal studio. And a friend of mine, Montreal is, I believe, where a lot of Ubisoft is. So a friend of mine was wondering, like, there's probably a lot of like ex-Ubisoft people on this, or at least my point is, Montreal has a pretty strong game development scene. So there's probably a good number of veteran game developers on this game, both from Montreal and some Chinese studio. I forget which city.
This got me thinking. There's a Neptunia game that I reviewed once before. It was done by a Canadian studio, and I think they were stationed in Montreal as well.
Anyways, the trailer is very flashy. If you like the look of those sort of cel-shaded anime-style games, this game is going to look like it's right up your alley. Very flashy. It is a free-to-play game, so it will probably have gotcha elements. We don't have any idea how they work yet, but it seems like it's going to be in that vein. If you like Genshin Impact and you like Honkai Star Rail in terms of like their aesthetic, obviously I know those games have different gameplay styles. This game probably should be on your radar. Now, I know there's a lot of questions in terms of structure, updates, longevity that we don't know anything about, but at least in terms of its presentation, it looks top-notch.
What other games did NetEase do? Did they do that Diablo Immortal thing, or is it?
NetEase. Well, I'm actually looking at.
NetEase publishes a lot of stuff. I
think this studio is new.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So kind of a slight aside. A very useful website is www.gamedevmap.com, and you can actually just type in any city, and it'll tell you like what game developers are in that city. So I was just looking up like what's in Montreal. There's Eidos Montreal.
Oh yeah.
1 second here. Yeah, there's quite a lot. Ubisoft Montreal, and a bunch of other smaller ones. There's a Warner Brothers Montreal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot in Montreal. So my friend, when we were talking about this story, his point was there's a lot of game developers in Montreal. So there's probably some veteran people working on this game that or probably helping it being, as good as it can be. Yeah, and NetEase also has a studio in Montreal, of course. I don't know how new that is or not. And there's a lot of smaller ones I'm not as familiar with. This website has Square Enix Montreal here also, but I think they were shut down.
Right.
So there's a lot. So
I'm guessing that's part of the Forsaken group or Forspoken.
no, Square Enix Montreal was, I believe, mobile stuff mostly. I'm not sure.
But yeah, I'm actually interested in this game. I'm definitely way more hyped for this game than was it the Zen Zero thing from HoyoVerse? Because I thought that game looked dated and kind of boring with the way the trailer was presented to me. It looked like a PS2 action game that's cel shaded to me.
And this sounds like a step up to you from that.
Yes, a huge step up. The only thing I worry about is the monetization. Every time when you play a mobile game, I have to look at the rates and how fast I get stuff, and is it worth my time? If the game is not generous at all and it treats me like trash, it has to give me some kind of incentive to play the game. Because mobile games can treat people like trash.
I will give this game props, and I love that Adam brought this up to me when he showed it off in staff and it was being announced. Was their little game icon for this game is like horrible. It's like one of like the main characters doing like a thinking emoji, but very smugly. It is so adorable and it is so funny. Every time I see it, I laugh. It is, it's so stupid and dumb. I love it. It looks like a shit post for the game, which is I respect that. I respect that energy. But yeah, that is a Project Mugen. There's no official title for it right now. They just barely revealed it. We don't know how far off it is.
I was actually I was trying to go to the official website to get the character names, but the official website doesn't seem to be loading for me right now. Because we got a few of the character names. I forget the bunny girl, the girl with the bunny ears. I forget her name. We have a few of the names, but I don't think it said anything else about them other than what you can see in the trailer. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, So that's Project Mugen. Next up, we have some really, really good news for Xbox players. Sven Vink, the founder and CEO of Larian Studios, has officially confirmed that Baldur's Gate 3 is coming to the Xbox Series X and S sometime later this year. He unveiled this news in a tweet that he met with the head of Xbox, Phil Spencer, to find a solution to get the latest, Baldur's Gate 3 on Xbox, because one of the main hangups that they were talking about with Xbox earlier this year was they're trying to make a split screen co-op work, because implementing that was difficult
on
Xbox Series S. S. So their solution was the Series S version of Baldur's Gate 3 will not have split screen co-op. The Series X version will. Both versions, along with the Steam version, will support cross-save progression on them. And yeah, so really great news for Xbox players that have been wanting to play this game and were bummed out that it wasn't officially announced up until now. Because Larian Studios has been very upfront, saying that like earlier this year that they were working on the Xbox version, but they didn't want to officially announce it until they were 100% sure that they were going to release it.
Now, the Xbox Twitter account actually afterwards, they have a tweet saying, "To answer some questions we're getting, we'll continue to work with Larian to explore the addition of split screen on Series S post-launch." So there's a chance that it'll come later. They won't have it at launch for sure, but it's kind of they're basically what Xbox is saying is we'll look into it more and maybe eventually it will get us some sort of split screen co-op support. But that's kind of a hypothetical at this point.
Yeah, I mean, like it's a pretty expansive, very big kind of game to like kind of get that stuff working. So best of luck on that. It's a monumental, gigantic task to get that, but it's still cool either way that that Xbox Series players will be able to play this on their console. It's one hell of a game. You've heard about it enough, like how good it is. So that's cool that they announced. So everyone gets to have one except Switch for Baldur's Gate 3. And go get a Steam Deck or something.
I'll tell them to give us a Switch 2.
Even then, do you think a Switch 2 would run it?
This is an aside, but 3 years ago when they announced, or was it, how many years ago did they announce this? 5 years ago? This is 2020. I think it came out, yeah. Anyways, I think 2020 is when they announced it. Sven was so excited to get Baldur's Gate 3 on Stadia.
Yeah.
And, in concept, it sort of made sense. Like, if you didn't have a console or a gaming PC, you just go to a browser, go to Stadia. If you have an account, you could play a co-op campaign with anyone else. But that never happened. Rip Stadia.
Yeah. Can you imagine this game running on Stadia, though, if it was still alive? Like, how the fuck that would look like? I don't know. It feels like it feels so daunting for this kind of game. It's would have been interesting, but
I never had a Stadia before. Is it as garbage as people make it out to be? I feel like your only issue would be playing like a fast-paced action game.
I think the promise of Stadia was way better than the execution of Stadia. Where like like theoretically you could see the value of Stadia, for people who didn't want to own machines and just what was okay with cloud gaming, right?
I mean, it sounded like a great idea on paper, but
okay. But it's look, Stadia went the way of Stadia, so let sleeping dogs lie, I guess, from that end.
Oh,
let's see.
I was actually looking into this. I totally forgot about this. This makes it even funnier. I'm sorry. In June 2019, there was a Google Stadia Connect stream, and that's when Baldur's Gate 3 was officially announced. It was officially revealed as a Google Stadia game first.
Fuck,
and then
that's crazy.
Like that was when we first saw it. It was a Google Stadia game, and then they said it's coming to consoles and PC also. Sorry, that's amusing to me.
I totally forgot that was like announced for Stadia first.
Yeah, I knew it was announced for Stadia, but I kind of forgot. I'm looking at our news post from June 2019. That's when they sort of teased it beforehand, but that was the official announcement. So.
Oh, I wonder how much Google paid for that exclusive announcement. Oh,
it funded the game. I don't know.
Next up, we have a new game from the developers of Star Renegades. This comes from Massive Damage. They announced Fera, the Sundered Tribes. This is a big genre shift on what they worked from previously on Star Renegades, which is more like a based RPG. This is Fera is more of like a monster hunter type of action RPG. It looks, I don't know, it looks pretty cool.
I'm a little bit disappointed in this announcement just because I felt like Star Renegades had such a unique style to it with its pixel art, its sound. I think it even won our best looking game that year because it had such a great art style and pixel art style to it. And this game is not 2D at all. It kind of goes to like a cartoony 3D. It
looks like Fortnite. Just say it looks like
Fortnite. Fortnite Monster Hunter. And I'm just kind of like, nah, I don't know. I kind of wish it would have stayed whatever their new project was. It was more like retro aesthetic 2D art, only modern, of course. But
yeah, can you imagine they had like the Star Renegades style, but like a Monster Hunter type of game? That'd be crazy.
I just like pixel art, okay? But I probably won't play this. I mean, sorry. I played Star Renegades. I think I reviewed it. It was pretty good. I liked it. It was a roguelike turn-based RPG. This one I probably won't play. Sorry.
This kind of looks like what was that? What's that free-to-play Monster Hunter game before World came out, James?
Dauntless.
Yes, that's what it reminds me of. But there's like a certain like base builder, not base builder aspect of it, a village builder,
something like that.
Almost village development aspect of this game.
Interesting.
So
I guess I should mention just this news rundown that we're just starting. There's a lot of news to get to. There weren't much in terms of like brand new announcements, but we do have a couple of these indie game announcements that we're going to go through first, and then there's like a bunch of trailers, like a lot of trailers for games that are already announced. So
yeah, well, one of the features here, they're stating for Fera is like lead a tribe that's guarded, this legend for centuries. So now you're like kind of like a beacon of hope for this tribes, so you gather more tribes people, save them from beasts, build up your village, see them come together. So there's it's not just about hunting monsters, it's about rebuilding a civilization aspect to this, and this is coming sometime next year for PC via Steam. Next up, we have oh, this is interesting. So, Hooded Horse and Overhyped Studios announced a new TRPG, Menace. So the tactical RPG, and then players control a strike team in this game. I believe James put this up. What did you think about this, James?
1 second.
Nope.
Sorry, just need to open the podcast doc again.
It's okay. Yeah, this is about Menace. You wrote up the news post for this game.
Yeah, so I actually haven't played any of Hooded Horse's previous games, and I didn't think too much of it. But surprisingly, we got like a comment on the article saying that their previous game, Battle Brothers, was really good. So I guess people are excited for this, which that's always good to see with like smaller developers like this.
Yeah, there's like a sci-fi tactical RPG, a lot of like warfare going on. There's a tank section that was shown off in the trailer. And some of the key features they're talking about is like procedurally generated multi-mission style operations, large dynamic battle maps.
Man, sometimes these PC centric games kind of like sneakily popular. I'm looking at the Battle Brothers Steam page. Very positive reviews, and it has 18,000 reviews.
Oh wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, just like I think I had heard of it, but I knew nothing about it. It's got a really kind of weird art style at a glance, but hey, seems like it's done well for itself, and people like it. So that's pretty good sales for a little indie game.
So yeah, Menace. This is coming out sometime next year on PC via the Steam and Epic Games Store. If you were a fan of Battle Brothers, this is one to look out for. And if you've never heard of Battle Brothers before, like us, maybe check it out. I mean, that seems really promising from the feedback I've been giving about that game. And this new game seems pretty neat. Next up, we have a hellish tactical RPG called Hexxen Hunters. It's announced for PC, and it's set to release sometime in 2024 on Steam and Epic Games Store. This is,
it's like an isometric action RPG, sort of sent. I guess it uses a role playing or a tabletop game kind of universe. It's sort of got that sort of like Van Helsing kind of aesthetic to it. You're literally hunting like demons and vampires and things like that. Literally the premise is the gates of hell opened, unleashing countless supernatural horrors on the world. 100 years later, select few have risen to beat back the forces of evil. So
it seems to be like 8 playable characters with all their own sort of set of equipment and skill trees, and then I forgot how many players play together. I think it's like up to 4, I believe. And then so you can have different synergies with each of your party members. And it mentions this is turn-based tactical battles in this game. So the interesting thing about this game is like it's gonna be localized into a lot, just like English, German, French, Spanish, Italian, Polish, Czech, Turkish, Russian, Brazilian, Portuguese, simplified and traditional Chinese, Korean, and Japanese. That's one hell of a localization effort for a smaller release.
I still get left out here. They don't have traditional Chinese.
No, you just said simplified traditional Chinese.
Oh, I thought you said simplified only.
No, simplified and traditional Chinese. So, if you want to play this game in traditional Chinese, feel free. But yeah, this game looks pretty cool. Like Adam mentioned, kind of based on like a tabletop role playing game Hexxen 1733. So that looks neat. Next up, we have a fantasy CRPG called Dark Envoy, and that's launching on October 24th for PC via Steam and GOG. This is another
isometric action RPG. It's actually been in development for quite a while, and it's kind of bounced around publishers a bit. I have not played it, but this is the studio behind Towers of Time, I believe is what it's called, which is another one of those kind of like PC-centric games that kind of has done sneakily well. But this is for the CRPG fan base. It's kind of an action isometric game, isometric fantasy sort of game.
Yeah, it looks like it's like a real-time action thing, but you can like slow or pause combat,
Yeah.
so almost like Dragon Age 1.
Yeah.
So that's pretty neat. Has a lot of magical attack elements to it, and then you can craft and enchant items and weapons in the middle of combat. So people who wanted like sort of like a Dragon Age 1 combat style of ebb and flow, this might be a release that's worth up your alley, and if you're looking for that. So that'll be out October 24th, Dark Envoy. Next up is a release coming just in a few days, actually. Mary Skelter Finale is making its way to Steam on September 12th. This was previously released on PlayStation and Switch.
Was the PlayStation version ever localized, or was that one of those ones that never was Switch only in the West? I forget.
That's a good question. I think
I
the
don't think it
PlayStation
was localized. I
Really?
did the review for the Switch version.
Yeah,
Huh.
I was thinking it was one of those things where it literally didn't pass PlayStation certification or whatever.
Oh wow! Okay.
That's
didn't
a
know
weird
that.
thing.
But this game does have a lot of fan service, though.
No, it looks like it did release on PS4. What was I thinking? Was there a different game?
No, I kind of misheard you. I thought you said Vita.
No, not Vita. Sorry, I must be conflating it with something else.
Were you thinking about like the first game?
Maybe the
This
second
Gaia
game?
6. Oh yeah, maybe it's one of those past releases. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was Mary Skelter 2 was Switch only, I think. So, and that one didn't get the PS4 version.
So yeah, I mean, for people who haven't, we're waiting for the Steam version of Mary Skelter Finale, September 12th. It'll have like all the DLC that released with it as well. So, all the goodies and all that stuff. Next up is something I'm.
Oh yeah, real quick, just making sure.
Yeah.
I was conflating it with Mary Skelter 2. That game was released in PS4 in Japan, but not in the West. So Finale is though. So whatever that means.
2 is the best one. Okay, you don't even need to play the finale. Should just end it with 2.
Well, there you have it. Child's review. Next one is something I'm excited about. Citizen Sleeper 2, Starward Vector. That's been announced for Xbox Series X and S, and also coming to Xbox Game Pass. They also showed a little bit of like in-game footage about some of the locales you'll be exploring in the game, like the Hexport Exchange and the Factory Row, and all that sort of stuff. It looks to be a very different sort of like game flow. In the first one, you're like trying on a space colony, and now in the sequel, you seem to be like managing a space station that will, like kind of grow over time. It seems, and maybe go to other places. There's also coming also on PC as well, obviously. And yeah, this is kind of following up on the Citizen Sleepers kind of dice-based RPG gameplay, where when you start a new day in that game, you have a certain amount of dice that you can play with and roll and see what sort of like activities you can do based on the die rolls that you get. Seems to be a more fleshed out idea from the first game. Really looking forward to it, and I don't think they've announced the release date for this yet. So it'll come when it comes, and then I'll be there. Maybe day one, whenever it releases, depending on what comes around it. So yeah, that's Citizen Sleeper 2, Starward Vector. There's the new announcements for Xbox Series X and S, and also coming to Xbox Game Pass. Some good stuff. Next up, we have another game that I played earlier this year. Wandering Sword is coming out on September 15th for PC. September somehow looking more and more busy than how it already was.
In terms of sheer number of releases, September has got a lot.
It's absurd.
Yeah, and not to mention, obviously big games like Starfield, or if you're more on the Japanese RPG side of things, you got like Fate Samurai Remnant. Mm-hmm. But there's just a lot of little there's a lot of ports, a lot of indie games. There's just a lot.
So this game, if people remember, was this was made by the Swordsman Studio, published by Spiral Up Games. It's kind of like the Chinese developed
2D.
People say it looks like Octopath, and if I remember correctly, the battle system is more like Live Alive-ish.
Yeah. So it is a mix of like Octopath visuals with like live alive gameplay.
I'm quite interested in it. I want to see how it goes. But
Yeah,
I think the only thing I'm worried about, because it's a Chinese publisher, they usually have localization quality issues when it comes to the English version. At least
yeah,
in mine.
I remember like the demo that I played definitely had like some rough text. So hopefully they polish that up. But it's definitely has that like Chinese developed infused flair with it in terms of like system, like how it's like systems heavy. Like this one has like different martial arts and different styles you can like invest in with different weapon types, and like and the way that like you learn these skills is like very much like a chi skill tree in the game, and the way that they visualize that's like through different like meditation stances, which is pretty cool in the game when
I'm
you see it.
gonna ask you a random question.
Yeah.
It'll be like, okay, there's this one Chinese RPG game that I played a long time ago, like I was a kid, right? It had to do with mafias and stuff. But the thing is, in that game, it had a reverse kind of system. Like, the boss starts out extremely difficult, but as you wear them down, they get weaker. So the game gets easier as the fight drags on because they're being injured. So they're being crippled by your attacks, so they can't hurt you as much. So have you ever played a game where the boss gets weaker as you play and their strongest is at the beginning?
I've played a few games that have like either like a morale system or some sort of some sort of almost like momentum system where once you kind of get over some sort of hump or hill, things start to go more smoothly. Yeah, I played games like that.
Yeah, there's been like a few games like that. Like I'm thinking of like Hero Must Die, as far as sort of has a different like similar system. Oh my God, what was it called? It was like I forgot, it was like a Power Idea Factory. It's like Death Trillion of Destruction
Oh,
sort of deal.
I didn't mean the sort of thing where you like
Trillion. Well, actually, I have that on my shelf. 1 second.
Trillion God of Destruction, right?
Yes.
Yes, because I remember the premise of that.
Right.
Yeah, like the premise of that game was like almost exactly what you described, Chow. Like there's like this unbeatable boss at the beginning of the game, and then you kind of spend that game like kind of like progressing your characters to sort of be more like have more of a fighting chance against that boss. I believe that was like
Well, I
the
wasn't
premise
really
of that
referring
game.
to games that have like the macro scale, like game starts out hard, and you kind of get weaker and weaker. I was talking just more like boss fight design, micro scale,
Being like weaker as you fight.
well, like for example, the Last Remnant has a morale system, and it's kind of the cynical way to look at it is if you start doing bad, things get harder because your morale gets low, and you need to like boost it up before you can start gaining the advantage again. And in that game, you kind of have to manage it. But I was just saying, there are a couple games I played where you kind of, have some sort of, you got to get, the gear rolling. You got to get some sort of momentum or swing. And then as soon as you get to that point, things become easier, and as long as you can maintain it. So that's sort of what came to mind when Chow was thinking like a boss starts out hard and then kind of gets easier as you wear him down. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's kind of
the cynical way to look at it is that like a game punishes you for doing badly or whatever. So
I have no idea if Wandering Sword will have anything like that, Chow.
Yeah.
But
how do we get on this tangent? Thanks, Chow.
I don't know. I was just thinking because that was from a Chinese developer from a long time ago. Because in most games I played from any like I don't know, like Japanese or Western culture is usually the boss is like when they're about to die, they become like 50 times stronger. You're about to die. All your bones are fucking shattered, and all of a sudden you're
more
like
realistic.
10 times stronger, and now you're super hard. And surprise, random game over when they're about to die. It's like, but I just don't see like games with a reverse kind of design philosophy behind it. So
Wandering Sword coming out on September 15th for PC via Steam. I will somehow find time to play this game this year. That probably isn't going to be on launch, but we'll see. I definitely want to give it a shot though. Another one here is a time-driven exploration game. The Time I Have Left is coming next year for PC. This has a pretty distinct look to it, and the trailer that they showed from Gamescom 2023, it's like an adventure game with RPG elements. It's
Wandering
very
flashback.
Yeah,
very stylized.
It's called like an adventure game with some turn-based combat and some RPG elements. So it's like light RPG, but it definitely has a very striking art style. Very dark with kind of like splashes of red and blue and silver kind of throughout. It's definitely got a very interesting palette in that sense.
This looks very, very artistic, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's I believe it's. I don't know if the studio has made anything else. I believe it's a debut project for this studio. Take a look at some of the screenshots on our website. It's sort of hard to describe. It's like kind of like the color palette is like black, red, blue, and silver.
It looks like they've read Persona 5 and given some weird.
Well, it doesn't look like Persona 5.
It's even darker than that. Like Persona 5 is very colorful, and this is more moody. And it's got an interesting kind of premise to it. This character is basically destined to die in 6 hours, and you're supposed to like escape with. It says find clues, solve environmental puzzles, unlock hidden areas, secure your escape, explore or experience unique exploration gameplay combined with a fresh take on the classic JRPG formula. So it also says the timer is always ticking, but time flows in mysterious ways. So there is some sort of like time component to this, which I know some people might hesitate. Oh, I hate time limits, but maybe it's implemented in an interesting way.
I feel this is like Fire 5 with the Dragon Age.
There's also like reactive elements in the turn-based combat, like so you can actually like manually dodge like incoming attacks and stuff like that. So sort of like a paper
one of the screenshots here does show the character is level 3 with so many stats in willpower and skills and sprint, not spirit. So it is definitely an RPG. That's all that matters, right? You got stat points.
That's right.
So
even has it in the screenshots.
Yep.
There you go.
So
yeah, that looks really neat though. Very very visually distinct.
Mm-hmm.
On the time I have left. Next up, we're getting to the trailers part of.
We got a lot of trailers.
A lot of trailers. So let's see what we have here. They showed like a new mini trailer for this Mandragora. Small trailer for this game. It's like a dark 2.5D fantasy. Action RPG, magical spells, melee, dodge rolls. It's what you would expect from these sorts of games. That's coming out next year on PC. Nothing much else that they showed. It's also coming out on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, X and S, Nintendo Switch as well. I don't know why it only showed the PC logo on the trailer. Well, because it's probably wishlist now on Steam. Next up, one of the trailer reveals they showed off for opening night live for Gamescom was a new trailer for Black Myth Wukong. That is this Souls-like Journey to the West inspired action RPG. Made a pretty, every time they show this game, it's always very flashy, lots of spectacle. This trailer is pretty funny because it's like kind of directed by a bard that's playing this not guitar but like a shammy. What do you call it? It's kind of like a more not as decorated as a guitar. It's more like
I thought it was like a sitar.
Okay.
But I don't know.
Yeah. But the bard playing it is headless, and yet you're still hearing vocals from it. Pretty funny. And then it shows off a lot of boss encounters that they've shown past and some new ones in this game. A lot of, as you imagine, from a Journey to the West inspired game, very bow staff heavy gameplay. And then like one of the new things they showed off in this game is like kind of like a blood red soaked battlefield, like lighting against like this new boss. It's still slated for summer 2024, so still a ways off, but they keep on showing more and more of it, and looks cooler every time.
If this game kind of lives up to what the trailer displays, like this is gonna be a very good game. If it meets up with expectations from what's shown there.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen some people joking that like this game is based on Dragon Ball.
Dragon Ball is based on Journey to the West.
It's kind of it's a joke.
Or started from there.
It's a joke at the expense that people don't recognize that Akira Toriyama is apparently the author of classic Chinese folklore.
That's true.
I'm joking.
Next thing you know, if you started the Free Kingdoms manga, Teal will probably Free Kingdoms based on that.
You do play a monkey king in this game, so
I think the character's a little. I think they literally just refer to the main character as Monkey, which is fair.
But yeah, and then I think IGN has like more like direct feed gameplay for just some of the bosses that they played in the preview as well. Go check them out. Next is the reemergence of Crimson Desert by Pearl Abyss. The lineage of this game, you're gonna have to help me, Adam.
Okay, so Pearl Abyss is most known for Black Desert Online, which is an MMORPG that I think is still doing well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the more popular Korean MMOs. I'm curious.
I know a friend who spent many hours in Black Desert Online, like an absurd amount of hours.
I heard that game's like very pay to win heavy. You would spend so much money on it.
I can't speak to that. All I know is
I mean, I just went to Steam database, and right now the Steam version of Black Desert has 22,000 people playing, so that's not nothing.
That's all healthy player base.
Now Crimson Desert, at least the way it was originally pitched, seems sort of like the sequel, not like narrative sequel, but kind of like the next MMO from Pearl Abyss, like the follow up to Black Desert. You go from Black Desert to Crimson Desert. Like, okay, that makes sense. But they've kind of refused recently to call it an MMORPG, which is sort of funny. I've literally gone back through the press releases how they refer to this game. Most recently, I believe they call it. Let me pull it up here. They don't call it an RPG actually. They call it like an online adventure game. Let me see what they say.
It's very they call it an open world action adventure game.
Yeah, they don't even call it online. Is it still online? I know at one point they said it was. The trailer here kind of feels like, and I saw many people describe it this way, Crimson Desert's trying to be like the everything game. You do everything. It's got every genre,
Yeah, there's just like so you have your typical like medieval fantasy based like action gameplay. A lot of shaky cam in this trailer. There's a lot of horseback riding, horseback archery. Then at some point, like you're kind of interacting with the village and like buying and selling things. Then you can like chop trees, and then at some point you can like play instruments. There's like a hot air balloon you can ride on. You can skydive. There's like interdimensional gates. There's like almost like a gliding mechanic in this game. There's
other things.
There's a lot of other things. I think I mentioned one of the first things I said to Adam was like, because he wasn't watching this in real time. I was like, yeah, this game is just trying to be like everything, pretty much.
The thing I'm most curious about is the character creator. I do have Black Desert installed on my computer before, and I just spent the whole day playing with the character creation. I don't even actually play the fucking game. Like, I wonder if they actually make like a character creation thing that even surpasses Black Desert. Because I thought that was like one of the greatest character creation.
You spend 3 hours creating a character, and then you spend like 30 minutes playing the game. Oh, I'm done.
Yeah, that's my experience with Black Desert.
And they say it's developed on Pearl Abyss's proprietary next generation Black Space engine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now we still don't have a release date for this,
but they do say it's a simultaneous global release of console and PC platforms, whenever that is.
We got confirmation for another thing about this recently with AMD's FSR3 announcement details, where apparently this is going to support FSR3, which makes it sound like it's probably closer to release than not. I don't know.
Maybe.
It'd be really cool if there's like a single player game where you can do everything. That'd be. I don't know. I'm not morbidly curious. I'm very curious, but very hesitantly curious about this game because I still don't know
like what it is really.
Well, yeah, like it shows you doing a lot of stuff, but I don't know and what I'm working towards.
So I was actually looking through previous emails about what they've called this game. Apparently, they first called Crimson Desert an open world MMORPG set in an epic fantasy world. Like, okay. And then they called it a massive open world action adventure game with content designed for both solo play and multiplayer.
I don't know. I feel like maybe they saw the success of Final Fantasy 14 and they're like, maybe they'll make
It almost
it
feels
more...
like they just are kind of shy to call it an MMORPG. And then more recently, a new immersive open world action adventure game.
They're gonna jump scare us that there's an MMORPG.
They want that more casual approach, the amusement park experience for players. Maybe.
I don't know, man. This game's so it's still one of the most confusing games ever to me. That's just me. But it's cool that they showed it off again. I don't know what type of game it is at this point, but it sure is a video game. That's Crimson Desert. Next up, they're showing more of the Lords of the Fallen, new Lords of the Fallen game. It's not really a sequel. It's not really a reboot. I guess it is.
It's kind of both a sequel and a reboot.
Yeah, I guess. They showed a new story trailer for it to become a Dark Crusader.
I'll admit I didn't watch this trailer.
Yeah, I'm just.
They've shown a lot of trailers for this game.
There's a big preview. There's a big preview event that people did too at other outlets.
Yeah, well,
and,
we have a preview
myself
on our outlet too.
Oh yeah, that's true too. Sorry, yeah.
James,
I've played several hours of this game.
Yeah, you put up a lot of things, James. So I lost track of what you put up.
Understandable. There's definitely some things I've forgotten that I've written this year so far too.
Or James.
That might be me with PAX West. We'll see. But yeah,
we've talked before how this game is sort of like a Souls-like with this dual world mechanic. That's kind of its gimmick in terms of what it's setting itself apart. So
yeah,
that comes out mid-October.
Yeah, they're showing off a whole hell of a lot of this game, and it's still kind of far out a little.
Yeah. So all of September.
Well, it's gone gold, so I mean.
Yeah. And then next up
you missed the Cyberpunk trailer.
Oh right, sorry. There's a lot of links.
Yeah. Have any of us played Cyberpunk? I've been meaning to. I just haven't.
I've been meaning to as well, but as soon as I found out that there was like system changes with the expansion, I was like, I'll just wait for the expansion.
That's what I was getting at. Is this trailer actually shows not just there's like a new story with the new character played by Idris Elba. You know, kind of they keep calling it kind of like a world of spies and political intrigue. So there's this new expansion story, but alongside that, this expansion also has, they talk about overhauls in the police system. They talk about overhauls in skill trees and perks and everything. So like James was saying, they're changing a lot, not just an expansion.
And not even just like gameplay changes. Like I know that like on the PC technical side of things, and this is something that will apply for both of us since we both have 4090s, recently, NVIDIA announced DLSS 3.5, which has a new AI denoiser for ray tracing, which, if you're listening and you don't know what that means, basically, if you've ever seen a game with ray tracing, and even if you haven't, a lot of times because current PC and console hardware, even though it can do ray tracing, it only has a limited amount of like samples it can do for each ray sent. It means that it's going to look very noisy, very muddy, and you kind of use a denoiser to try and kind of smooth things over. Current denoisers for ray tracing are not great, and there's a lot of ghosting, there's a lot of fuzz. I'm not sure if you've noticed that in games, or well, anyone has noticed that in games in this call, but if you have, that's why. One of the things that DLSS 3.5 adds is this thing called ray reconstruction, which works similarly to the way that DLSS works, where it uses a lower input resolution and then uses the AI accelerated hardware on current NVIDIA GPUs to basically do a better upsample of the base resolution to a higher fidelity resolution. And ray reconstruction does that for ray tracing. And with the Phantom Liberty expansion, they're going to add in that technology for Cyberpunk.
In fact, this trailer that they showed at Gamescom is really not about the expansion story stuff at all. It's all about all these redesigned everything else, not the technical stuff that you were getting into, just all the systems changes and tweaks and redesigns and configurations and all that. So
and they also mentioned that like some of these like features are gonna come to the base game, say base Cyberpunk 2077 game itself and an update 2.0. So
but the DLC story is current gen only, right? So
yeah,
Yes.
if I understand correctly, they've basically retooled the skill trees,
yeah,
like all the skill trees. They've retooled the AI, and
yep.
obviously there's the technical changes that I just detailed with
Yeah,
like
the
DLSS
news post that
3.5.
we have on our site, which has the trailer, also has the press release where they kind of go down the things that have changed
Yeah.
in terms of design. So
Yeah, so basically, if you're buying the expansion, the only thing that buying the expansion gets you is the new region in Night City, and you also get access to a separate skill tree that's exclusive to the expansion. But pretty much, if you just care about the system changes and everything that encompasses that, then you will get that for free as a free update as long as you have a current gen console and PC. Because again, the since the expansion is exclusive to current gen and PC, I'm pretty sure this most recent update will not be coming to like PS4, Xbox One. I think that's the only stipulation here.
that seems reasonable. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I will hopefully play this game one day, but September is mess.
September is trouble. I have like besides the game I already mentioned and Immortals of Aveum, I guess that's not super long. There's another game on my backlog that I'm trying to finish before the middle of next month for a reason that I'll probably be able to talk about later. But I don't exactly know off the top of my head how much later. Just very busy.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So that is the Cyberpunk stuff, and then as with most of these events, HoyoVerse or Mihoyo or whatever,
Still got a lot of trailers left, guys. Jeez.
they put off like a trio of trailers, a new one for Zenless Zone Zero, which has no release date, and Chow hates it already. We have one for Honkai Star Rail, which is focusing on a new character or two new characters with their version 1.3 update, and also talking about the technical tests coming for the PlayStation version.
I
Upcoming
believe that
of the
technical
game.
test has already started. I believe it started today or yesterday.
Mm.
I think. Don't quote me
Yeah,
on that.
I think they mentioned it started on August 23, so a few days ago. Yeah, so people have already been playing that in some way, shape, or form on their PlayStation. Let's see. They also put out a trailer for Genshin Impact, which is focusing on their latest
On 4.0.
major world and story update, which Chad
Chow
talked
talked about
about
that last week or
last
a
week.
couple
Yeah,
days
about
ago.
Fontaine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about Fontaine. So for people who wanted something new out of this, it's just throwing more of Zenless Zone Zero with no release date. And
I
they
have to
like
admit, whenever I cover HoyoVerse stuff on the site, I kind of just assume that the HoyoVerse fandom, like they know more about it than I do already.
yeah.
I think so, because if you look at their Twitter response, there's always like 0 response or retweets. So it's like, yeah, they're protecting their HoYoverse source no matter where.
Yeah, I kind of feel like for those sorts of games, like once you kind of get that fandom, their source is that studio itself. You know, they're just like, I'm just gonna use whatever HoYoVerse says on Twitter. That's my source. So,
Look, you just
but we still
if you
cover
want
it out of obligation.
if you want the attention of the fandom so much, Adam, just go write an article that says all HoYoverse games suck, and you suck for liking them.
And our site would be boycotted to oblivion. It would be gone.
I kind of have the feeling that some people would agree, but like it sucks, but I love it anyway. I don't know.
I think it's kind of like up and down. I mean, it's like that meme. We're so back, and now we're so over.
So over. We're so bad.
That's like my experience with their games. Always.
Fantastic. Okay, well, that's the HoYoverse stuff. Okay, and then we also got a new gameplay trailer for Persona 5 Tactica, who lives in the shadow of Persona 3 Reload, almost. But it's more footage of the strategy RPG spin-off of Persona 5 coming on November 17. It sure looks like RPG.
Yeah, it shows like the equivalent of the all-out attacks, the skill tree, and plus our favorite thing, Atlas DLC.
Yay!
Yeah, don't you love that you have to buy this game and then you have to buy like Goro and Kasumi
It's
in addition?
spoiling Lavenza or whatever
Oh
her name
yeah,
was.
they did that with Royal years ago. They're like, yeah, Lavenza. Everyone knows about Lavenza now, right? So.
No, I don't
She
know. Just kidding.
Well,
she's
clearly,
doing
Lavenza is just a girl with
she's
silver hair and blue clothes, and in this game wielding a big mallet and
she's like an iron
a face
worker in this
shield.
game
Yeah, she's
to
like a
make Persona.
blacksmith. Yep.
What the fuck? It's funny.
um,
I wonder what happened to those people that never played Persona 5.
I
Like
still
my
I still
cousin.
think it was the funniest thing when Persona 5 Royal was coming out. Atlas Japan put out a tweet with Lavenza basically saying, "Don't spoil this game."
Like, when your
Like,
character's
yeah, the
damn
character
spoiler.
who's telling this is a spoiler. Like, okay, thanks.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Um,
The interesting thing is like at the end of the trailer, they have Goro and Kasumi
yeah, they're the
show up in this game.
DLC.
Oh, okay, so they're the DLC, but
Yeah, that's what I was getting at earlier. Is we
okay,
love Atlas DLC, where if you want these
okay.
characters, you have to buy them
But
separately.
it's kind of like more quote unquote canonizing the royal version of Persona 5, I guess.
I wonder if
You
this
know.
game will also have some sort of weird, stupid canon explanation. Like, it was all a
Hmm.
dream that they actually had in real canon,
And
and
it
we
was
forget about it.
God, the Persona Q fucking
Yeah,
justification
Persona
is
Q
so
is technically canon. It's stupid, but it technically is. They just all
Atlas is
forgot about
canon.
it.
Hmm.
Um, Also, this is also sort of annoying. We got the press release on this game that they put out this trailer, but I'm trying to find the trailer online, and I'm like, where is it? It's not on Atlas's site or on Atlas's YouTube. It's like, oh, of course, this game is on the Xbox YouTube because it's an Xbox exclusive, right?
Hmm.
It's not. They just want you to think that. It's
Gosh,
very silly.
the fucking Xbox marketing with this shit is so.
I've said before that I know some other games have like marketing agreements, but I feel like Atlas and Sega are more extreme, where it's like you can only find it on the Xbox YouTube channel. Really? Eh.
I sincerely hope they're getting paid enough for that. Completely unrelated. Has anyone else seen the official PC requirements for Tactica and Reload?
I have to
No.
imagine Tactica's requirements are not high.
All right. So, you guys are seated for this, right?
Sure.
Okay.
If you want to play Persona 5 Tactica on the recommended specs for 1080p 60 high settings, you're gonna need a groundbreaking, innovative GPU from the year. God, over a decade ago, it requires a GTX 650 Ti.
Huge.
Okay,
Holy shit.
I thought you were gonna
Jeez.
go the other direction and say that it was like requiring like
4090.
not,
Yeah,
I think
no.
it's one of
The
those-
recommended specs for 1080p 60 high on Tactica is a 650 Ti, and that's the minimum spec for Persona 3 Reload. The recommended spec for Persona 3 Reload is GTX 750.
Oh wow.
I'm just gonna say it. Why the fuck isn't that on Switch then with those requirements?
Yeah, really.
Dang.
Jesus Christ. I play fucking Ion with those specs back in the day.
I thought you were gonna go the other direction and have these games have
Okay,
like weirdly demanding requirements, despite Tactica not looking like a demanding game.
I don't know what I'm more impressed about. The fact that the requirements are that low, or they even bothered to test on that. That's a GPU over 10 years old. A mid-range GPU over 10 years old.
Yeah.
Damn.
I'm
James
glad
is rubbing it in with his elitist computer card expertise.
Anyways,
Look,
I will
man.
play Tactica. I don't have like great expectations, but hey, I actually like Persona Q games more than the mainline stuff. But I'm also like a dungeon crawling head. But I'll try this. I'll try it. I'll play it.
I'll play it. The Aniplex USA opened up the English website for their upcoming localization of Tsukihime, A Piece of Blue Glass Moon. Along with that is the trailer that they showed off at Anime Expo that didn't get streamed accidentally. Um, so for
I did not watch the trailer, but there's no release date confirmed yet, right?
it's
Next year sometime.
for PS4 and Switch.
And
So, yeah.
there's still not technically a PC version, right?
I mean, it's one of those weird things where like
A
they showed
magazine
off. Yeah,
showed it, but
at Type Moon Ace, that recently released like earlier this month. They had a PC logo with Tsukihime, but they didn't comment on anything. So that's Type Booth official magazine, and they put a PC logo for Tsukihime.
Unfortunately, that is, feasibly just a mistake where they're like, "Whoops, we just put the logo there and we didn't mean to."
Maybe like
Who
they have not deconfirmed it, and that's they.
But as
That
far
PC
as
logo
the
there.
English marketing goes, they haven't said anything.
Yeah.
So it's just a PS4 Switch game, right? So.
Right.
I mean, I don't mind replaying Witch on the Holy Night on PC, but there is a PC version, but it's a dated out of print PC version with no voice acting. I want it with like the enhancement they did in the consoles. So, but
I don't know. So yeah, I mean, so there's not really anything new news. It's just kind of English website with English trailer. You can see how the English version is shaping up with that trailer.
It's an introduction to people who maybe are interested or like are familiar with Fate, but maybe not with this.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a big set of people, but
probably is.
It's an introduction to the broader audience.
So yeah. Next up we have a new trailer for Warhammer 40K Rogue Trader, showing off the companions, the party members, in a pretty sort of lengthy trailer, giving them a rundown. Like a pretty diverse amount of.
I know people like the
Warhammer.
characters in the Pathfinder games.
Yeah.
And so this is sort of the equivalent here. And so this is from Owlcat, who are the developers behind Pathfinder Kingmaker and Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, which are popular games in that sphere for sure. In fact, we actually got a little bit of flack last year because Brian was the one who played Wrath of the Righteous, and he wasn't super fond of it. And so we didn't include it on our final top 10 of the year, and people got mad at us. Sorry. But I know a handful of people who like the Pathfinder games who don't know anything about Warhammer at all. But they're like, if this is an Owlcat game, I'm going to play this. I don't know anything about Warhammer, but I'm going to play this.
Yeah, I really want to check this out. In PAX West, I'm gonna go check out. There's one of the games I'm gonna go check out. When I was talking with Kazuma through Discord, and they were saying that they really like this game. Like I guess they went to some previous preview for this game, and they're a big fan of the Pathfinder, and they said that they really like what they're seeing with Rogue Trader, and then they said that it's really fun, and I'm like, oh man, I'm excited now if you're saying that, because like a lot, I've never played the Pathfinder games, but I do like XCOM. So this kind of looks a little bit like XCOM to me.
Well,
and
I think it's supposed to be more just classic computer RPG.
Yeah, but when I see like the shield icon by cover, I think of XCOM. So, but I also like CRPGs as well. But I'm also one of those people that like I'm not super deep into Warhammer lore or like a Warhammer fan, but I do play Warhammer games. Like I play Space Marine, I play a little bit of Vermintide. I played sort of like the old
second Vermintide. It was a fun game.
The old strategy game, the old Warhammer strategy games. I played here and there. So I'm not a big Warhammer fan, but I do like Warhammer games. So
when I think of Warhammer, I think of those little miniature figurines that people paint that they used to play. That's all I think.
I'm interested in playing the Pathfinder games, but I know if they're about 100 hours each. It's like, man, that's a lot.
Yeah, so I don't know how long this game is going to be, but it does look pretty cool though. That's all I can say. It's like, yeah, I see like a battle brother, and like, hey, that's a Space Marine. He looks cool. And they also confirmed that co-op mode is coming to Windows PC day one, and will be coming later in post-launch for the Mac and console versions of Rogue Trader. So neat. So yeah, if people want to see more of the party members in Rogue Trader, go watch that companion trailer. And if you're a Warhammer fan, I'm sure there's a lot to chew on with that. Next up, we have a launch trailer for Sea of Stars, which is coming pretty soon. It's coming
Monday.
Just in a few days. Yeah. So August 29. For PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, Switch, and PC via Steam. In this launch trailer, they showed off a new playable character, Sarai, a portal assassin. She seems pretty fun. Like the battle footage they showed with her was bouncing between portals, like throwing like I think kunai or whatever. It is a pretty fun concept for a character.
One thing I'm curious about for this game, so when I think about this game, I sort of think about Chained Echoes. I know I was more positive on Chained Echoes than you were, but the thing I'm curious about mostly is that Chained Echoes has a lot of characters. You have 4 characters in battle, and I think like 16 total. Where this game, I think we've only been introduced to 4. You have the main 2 characters, whose name are Zale and Valerie, I believe. And then you have like a 3rd character named Garl, who's kind of like this sort of fighting cook. And then you have Sarai, who's this ninja, and that's like it. So there's only 4 characters we're introduced to. So I'm kind of curious about just like the structure of the game, both gameplay wise, you know, managing only 4 characters in battle, and also just like narrative in terms of, you know, focusing on each of these characters. So that seems like at least the way I'm looking at it, a pretty big difference from something like Chained Echoes, which is also sort of in that, you know, new take on a SNES RPG. But yeah, I think this game, obviously, it looks excellent. It looks incredible. Very great, very good art style. Very good, you know, direction there. Very good colors. Very curious to see how this plays. I will probably check it out.
They also announced
I'm checking it out too.
Yeah, they announced the physical release for this game is coming early 2024 in partnership with IM 8-bit. So if people want to get the physical version, that'll be coming. And yeah, I definitely want to check it out as well. I wonder if I'll have time.
I think like some of the people are bitter about the game because they were like it has connections to The Messenger, which is a very up and down game. You either love it or hate it or something.
I've never played The Messenger. I know some people love it. Yeah, some people I know like Cullen on our staff doesn't like it. At least the writing element of it. But I'll also give this game a fair shot.
Yeah.
You know, it's a different genre. It's not like a side scroller. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how it shapes up. Hopefully it's really good. So that's Sea of Stars. Next we have cozy RPG Terra Memoria, showing off town building and combat in a new gameplay trailer.
Yeah, this is from a French developer. It's sort of it looks sort of like it kind of reminds me of like Breath of Fire 4 in its style, but not quite that good. I mean, really, honestly, not nearly that good, but it sort of reminds me of that. But it's got like it's sort of like a town building light RPG hybrid sort of game. It's actually kind of hard to get a grip on like what's in terms of like the overall structure of the game in terms of its, you know, what you actually do when you're playing it. But it's some sort of mix of town building and JRPG stylings. So it's got a kind of a cool pixel art style, but
at some points of the trailer it does have like that reminiscent of like that isometric character of like your characters are like at one end of the diagonal of the frame, and then the enemies are at the other end of the diagonal of the frame. Sort of like Super Mario RPG style.
Yeah, or Breath of Fire 4.
Yeah, so, Breath of Fire 4.
Yeah.
So good game.
Yeah, Breath of Fire 4 is good. You should play it.
So that's coming on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, Nintendo Switch, and PC via Steam.
No date. It just says coming soon.
Yeah. So yeah, it's Terra Memoria. This is an interesting one. Is a Victorian steampunk CRPG called Sovereign Syndicate. They released a new trailer for Gamescom 2023. I guess this has been around for some time on Steam, but they recently released a demo on it on Steam before Gamescom. It's you know, it has a very distinct look to it because of that Victorian era style. And then of course the most easy comparison is like there's the text box on the right end of the side looks like Disco Elysium adventure narrative style framing of the presentation. And you have like 3 selectable characters, and like the descriptions they have is like kind of all over the place. Like the first one they introduce you to is Atticus Daly. It's like an orphan
Minotaur magician. Like, okay.
Okay.
Sure.
That's different. Yeah.
Yeah, this is honestly my first time looking at this game. I saw you cover it, but to be honest, there was just so much last week I hadn't had time to really look at it yet. But yeah, I'm not even reading the descriptions. I'm just looking at like the thumbnail. Yeah, there's like a Minotaur with like a vest. He has his abs showing he's got these little like medals on his vest, and he's wearing is he wearing a tough hat? Yes, he is wearing a tough hat. And then there's a woman wearing like a blouse with one of those like corset things, with a big belt and a little tiny like bowler hat. And then there's like a dwarf with like a very dwarven braided beard. Okay, that's my visual description. I can't tell what the dwarf is holding, like a staff. Okay.
Yeah, and then this game is, they seem to like place a heavy element on the role playing aspect, where like people in the game may even react differently on you depending on your selection of like the character's gender, race, appearance, and obviously the dialogue choices that you make. So even like the way that like you build your character from the get go may have different implications and reactions from like the people that like you interact with in the game. And the game is very, they're pitching it to be very free form almost. Like of course you can go like head on approach through battles, but then there's some sort of like dialogue persuasion option as well.
It does seem to have a very Disco Elysium looking dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
I know you said that already, but like you're definitely you're not lying for sure.
Yeah.
Oh.
So okay. Yeah, and then they're saying there's no random stat points in this game, and then you use your skills to level up, and there's some sort of Terra card option in our chance system in the game, as well. So it seems to be juggling a lot. There's a demo out on Steam if you want to give it a go, as well. So yeah, it looks pretty interesting, pretty distinct looking, and good character designs.
Yeah.
Next up is a story trailer for the Thaumaturge, which shows the protagonist Victor in an alternate 1905 Warsaw. You covered this, Adam. Tell me a bit about it.
Apparently, this is like Pokemon, but very fucked up.
What? Really?
You like these characters, these Thaumaturges, they like kind of like summon. It's almost like SMT Pokemon-ish. You have like these like eldritch demon horrors that they like bind to fight these enemies. I forget what the enemies are called. They're called Salutors.
Okay.
That need to be tamed, and the tagline to this game is everyone has their own demons. So it's, I don't know, it's sort of like a Polish take on SMT in a CRPG, I guess.
You got my attention.
The trailers don't show a lot of gameplay, but it looks like it has like some sort of tactical-ish turn-based combat. But honestly, I kind of wish there was more footage of these games, because there've been 3 trailers so far, but they're only each about like a minute each, and this most recent one is more of a story trailer, and this character's sister is narrating to him and basically wanting him to come back, but I guess because of his position as a thaumaturge, he's sort of like distanced himself from his family. It says his sister Ligia is deeply fearful of her brother endangering his life in pursuit of unearthly entities and their hosts. So interesting premise, but I want to see more.
Thaumaturge sounds like a cool profession if you can stand it.
I don't even know what the definition of thaumaturge is. What is it exactly? I've seen it like thrown around here and there. Okay.
Yeah. You say like basically it's like a mage.
This is just Wikipedia. Purported capability of a magician to work magic or other paranormal events, or a saint to perform miracles. It's sometimes translated to English as wonder working. Okay.
It seems like that seems very like polar opposite. Like you either work with demons or like you're a saint.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right. Seems like a cool profession either way. This is from developer Fool's Theory and published by 11-Bit Studios.
Supposedly coming out this year.
Okay.
There's a lot of
no date yet, but man, that game actually sounds cool though. Fuck. That's a pretty interesting time period and premise.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then we have a new character trailer for from Nice America for Monochrome Mobius, Rights and Wrongs Forgotten. And to be clear, this is for the English console release of the game, because this came out last year on PC via Steam, and that was from was it Shiravune? So Nice America is doing their own fair share of marketing for the English console release of this game. So yeah,
this comes out pretty soon too. Like also in September. There's a lot.
Oh god, yeah, September 5th. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you didn't play the PC version or don't play these games on PC, this is next month also.
I made a whole feature about that.
Yeah, and actually, NIS America retweeted that recently. They saw it.
Oh, they did.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense because I got an email from Nick over there asking, "Hey, did you put anything up from the last time you were over here?" I was like, "Yeah, here's a link to it." So probably they found the tweet.
And then
let me
lastly,
see. One second.
Okay.
So this game comes out September 5. So if you are an RPG fan, but you're more on the JRPG side and not the Starfield side, you can buy this instead.
But there's also a shitload of other RPGs
Yeah,
in September as well. So, Godspeed. Lastly, we have another new trailer for East 10 Nordics. This is like a systems trailer that goes over like systems like the Monosense, Ravenstones, battle abilities.
These were actually like two separate but concurrent announcements, so it's a little bit weird. Falcom, obviously the Japanese developer, they released details on Monosense and Ravenstones. The Monosense is sort of weird. It's kind of like I don't know, Witcher Vision or something, where you get to just
you get a call out item.
Yes,
you get an item called a Druid Monocle.
Yeah, there's a screenshot with, and I think he was even in the last trailer where Adol's wearing this. It almost looks like a DVZ Scouter. It's a monocle, but
Want to know the really cursed pre-order bonus?
What?
The Picard Kigurumi.
Oh yeah, you can wear. You can be like a humanoid Picard, which is the little pig guy. In the East
that is pretty cursed.
Yeah, I saw
It's especially cursed because not only do you have the Picard head, but like they even showed
like
the from the back, and it's like it's like a skin tight fursuit, and then you just have the little like stubby tail on the back. It's like
they're going for the furry audience. Sorry.
Anyways, I guess they kind of already went halfway there with East 9.
Or well, I mean East 9. Yeah, you got like the raven, the bull, and the different animals. Okay.
Damn, does no one remember East 6?
Oh, I mean, they're just elf girls, right?
Elf ears and the tail is not furry.
Damn, that doesn't count. I guess I'm not a furry expert. Rip.
Look, Chow, let's get out the chart of like one end of the spectrum is not furry and the other end of the
what's
spectrum
that
is
one
furry.
picture where it's like the girl like walking up the stairs becoming more and more a fox?
Think of like the Animorphs covers, Chow, okay?
Yeah.
Anyways, so the Falcom announcement, so Falcom always does this with their games, where like every 2 weeks they release like little tidbits of info on their upcoming games, whether it's Kaseki or East. So they have the monocle thing, which again is some sort of like Witcher sense. It says you can temporarily slow down time, you can pass through doors or see platforms you normally couldn't see, or those sort of things. So we'll see how that works out. This is potentially more interesting to me, in that the Ravenstones are these things you find in dungeons or locations that split up Adol and Karja. They're normally like literally bound together with a chain, but this will kind of temporarily split them up. And it basically says like when you're split up, you're less powerful because you're by yourself, but you have to do these sort of like puzzly dungeon elements where Adol might make a new path for Karja to go to traverse a new path for Adol in response, those sorts of things. So I'm kind of curious how that works. And then Falcom also released a lot of details on like their individual skills. Personally, I don't really care to read these because if you're just going to play the game anyway, let's see them in action. But at the same time, the Asian publisher, which is Clouded Leopard Entertainment, released a trailer on some of the other systems which show things that were already introduced, like the ship, and also the character growth systems, like the line growth systems and things like that. And once again, that's all in English, even though the game will not be in English for a long time.
Yep.
So that game comes out next month in Japan and Asia. No English release yet.
Soon, TM.
Soon, as in at the very least, like 2 years from now, and that's being
generous,
optimistic.
Yeah, we'll get there one day. You just gotta keep on trucking along until then.
I wonder if I assume it's going to happen, when we'll get like the East Falgana port in English, because that's been out for a few months.
I don't know.
And then like Tokyo Xanadu I think that came out or is coming out soon for Switch.
For Switch, yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. We did it. We made it. We got through all the news announcements, all the trailers, all the whatevers, and most of it Gamescom, some of it not. But here we are.
You survived. You did it.
I mean, some bigger scale stuff with like Cyberpunk and Lords of Fallen and Persona Reload and whatnot, but a lot of smaller scale stuff, which I think is cool and interesting.
Yep.
Yeah. And then next week we have Sea of Stars is like the big release next week, and then Starfield is technically the week after. I know there's an early access period too, so that's kind of like what kicks off September. And then Tokyo Game Show. That's not that far away. Less than a month, roughly a month.
Yeah. Never a day to sleep, is it?
But Brian should be back next week. I'll be out. I'll be checking out some cool stuff at PAX West that I'll be able to talk about the week after. Seeing quite a bit of things out of the show floor. Some first hands-on with some stuff that has been announced but hasn't actually been like shown off to the public yet. So I can probably talk about those.
I'll be able to talk about Starfield.
I don't know if I'll have played Starfield by the time, but hopefully I will. That'll be one hell of a game. And I'll see you guys
2 weeks from now.
Technically 2 weeks from now, yeah. So, and then I'll tell you all about PAX West if I'm not dead from PAX West.
Wear a mask.
Hopefully you don't catch COVID again or whatever.
Yeah. Hopefully I don't get fucking sick again. So.
Yeah.
Hopefully not. I gotta plan out my survival strategy. And if you're hearing this and you're going to PAX West,
if you
don't be a stranger.
If you see someone walking around in a hazmat suit, it's probably Josh.
Yeah, there you go. The only way to be sure,
Wear the crow suit, the one that they used during the Black Death.
Oh,
Jesus. Yeah, that would look conspicuous. I'm sure security would be like,
why are you wearing that?
It's just cosplay. I don't know what you're. That's all it is. Anyway.
But yeah, that's this edition of the Tetracast. You can find us on rpgsite.net for our main site. You can find us on Twitter at rpgsite. You can find us on Facebook via facebook.com/rpgsite.net. You can find us on youtube.com/rpgsite.net. You can find us on your favorite podcast app, whether that be iTunes or Spotify or whatever.
Are we on Google Podcasts?
I think we are.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. You can find our Discord via discord.com/invite/RPG site. A lot of people talking about Armored Core there at the moment. But it's always active. People are always excited and happy to chat with others about RPGs and not RPGs. They like talking about mobile games. They like talking about anime, and all that good stuff. Until then, that's been this edition of the Tetracast. I've been your host, Josh Torres. Thank you, Adam Vitali. Thank you, James Galizia. Thank you, Chow Minwoo, for joining me once again on this edition of the Tetracast. Until then, you guys stay safe, have fun, prepare for a chaotic, hectic month of new video game titles releasing.